And it involved the first black team, African-American polo playing team of Philadelphia. Okay? These are
Polo horse, not polo water.
polo horse, polo game for really wealthy people.
Yeah, that polo.
Yes, because first of all, you need to have a horse. And horses don't come cheap, okay? They're not the price of donkeys. And then there's the equipment that accompanies the horse if you want to play the game polo, okay? And I was listening to the story how they actually got into it. Somebody took the initiative right in the middle of Philadelphia. You've all heard of this movie, Urban Cowboy. I think it's based on this story, okay? So they had stables in the park, one of the mini parks in that particular city. These children learned to ride horses, look after horses. It was just part of rehabilitating children and removing them from the streets so that they don't get in that culture of violence and crime and drugs and so forth.
Yeah.
Man, they became, you suddenly realize these were naturals. People who had not grown up around horses, but once they got the hang of it, why am I telling this story? All these sports we keep talking about, it's exposure. You provide. Did we know we could have a team in the Olympics playing beach volleyball? I didn't.
No.
Imagine.
So when I see our people playing beach volleyball, because we have beaches.
And you can play volleyball.
And we can play volleyball. And we've been playing volleyball for quite some time. No. That exposure is everything.
True, it is.
This to happen.
Speaking of exposure,
Yes.
COVID-19 is still with us. We are looking at clearly what is being defined as the fourth wave. Fatalities in the country have risen to 398 after another 15 patients were reported as having died from COVID. 1,068 new cases reported yesterday. Positivity rate is now at just at 14.4% because it was taken from a sample size of 7,394. And so it doesn't look really good. In the next couple of weeks, with what we are seeing now, it's likely that a lot more people will have COVID. Schools opened, a lot of things going on, many political rallies happening back and forth. So this is what we are now. 1,000 plus a day, 1,000 plus, as we go forward. So
This is in Kenya?
this is Kenya.
Okay. So this 1,000 plus, what's the distribution like?
All right, so we're looking at across the country, Nairobi with the highest numbers. I need to find out exactly where those numbers are. However, Nairobi has the highest numbers, and then we'll see which other counties there are. But upwards of 400 cases in Nairobi is what we are looking at.
So Nairobi has higher numbers than any other part, and then we go still to the normal Mombasa and the rest.
Yes.
Something
Nairobi
needs
has
to-
always had the highest numbers.
Something needs to happen, and we need to maybe send this as a case study on how you can curb the spread of the Delta variant. Because the Lake region seems to have done that. Without any lockdown, without anything. There they were with very high numbers of the Delta variant being recorded, and that number seems to have just tapered off.
Is it a
People,
report? Is it
a lot of
report?
people got sick, and then a lot of people recovered.
So we stopped the spread without anything.
No, I don't think that. No.
I don't think the spread was stopped.
I have to ask the question: is it a reporting issue?
That's the thing. Because look, how is it that a couple of days ago, just weeks ago, even the Director General of Health was raising concern and saying there are very high numbers that are being reported on a daily basis, incremental. The number that was reported yesterday in Kisumu is lower than the number being reported today, is definitely going to be lower than the number reported tomorrow. And then we go to a point where that just flattened. And everywhere else, we're talking about the Delta variant and how virulent it is and how it spreads
How devastating!
and how devastating it is. And then the numbers now, again, coming from this Lake region, the 11 counties, appears to have just got into a flat. What happened?
It's a question worth asking. And
No
I think
lockdown.
it's something worth looking into.
I think
Because the call the calls were to have a lockdown in this area, especially because we saw the more dangerous variant across these 11 counties. There was a curfew at 7 p.m. That was just about it. A curfew between 7 p.m. and 4 in the morning. And then there was a strong encouragement not to travel to and from these counties. That was just about the size of it. Do we still have people getting sick in the region? Yes, we do.
Are
Is
they
it
in
being
large numbers? Yes.
Yes. Is it being reported as that? As such, unfortunately, it isn't. But people are still getting sick. I don't think we need to move away from that people are still getting sick.
You know,
And I always have said, even these numbers that we're getting from the Ministry of Health, it does not paint the right picture of really how many people are being infected, if you ask me.
So there goes the question. So when we see these numbers now appearing to change, that a region that clearly had even said the first case of the Delta variant is recorded here, and more cases of the positivity that's being reported out of this region are of the Delta variant, and we can see it spreading around 11 counties, and then it appears the numbers that is now being reported are not in the same trajectory. You have to ask yourself, so what is it?
You see, what the reporting raises more question than it brings forth answers. Huh? But something else that needs to be considered about the human body and how it deals with foreign elements that attack it. Huh? The body also responds. The body also finds ways of coping. Now, if you go back to the story of herd immunity, it's reared its head again, but with reference to people getting vaccinated so that herd immunity can be achieved. Essentially, the thinking behind it has not disappeared, or the discussion around it has also not disappeared. But I find the subject that worries me the most is not even this reporting. It is the the reality that other variants will actually also rear their heads.
Yes.
And when these varieties, these new varieties of the virus rear their head, we think the Delta variant is virulent. We think it is harmful. These others will be even more harmful because essentially you're talking about a cocktail.
We are. And, even as we're having these conversations, we're having this discussion, I know we've moved into vaccine territory and such, but we're looking at stories coming out of Europe, for example, where they've had increases of infections that they've not had in the last 8 months. You see? They're getting infected with another strain of this, what was it, the Gamma the other day, that we're looking at 80,000, 100,000 now being infected in Italy, in the UK, in France. We didn't hear these high numbers more than 8 months ago.
No,
we didn't. And it's happening now.
But also remember that with the passage of time, there is a lot more we know about the virus that we did earlier. And even the tests that we have, yes, the name still is the same, but please remember that one of the things that we've also been dealing with is this. The reality is there are many people who've even had their second vaccination and they're still hospitalized. Now, the western part of this particular world that we live in, we are getting more and more reports. But as far as I'm concerned, that is not terrible news. It's just facing the reality that the fact that you get vaccinated does not mean that you will not get infected. No. It just means you've taken the steps to reduce the possibility of the severity that the infection can likely bring upon you. And also to hasten the recovery period because your body will have become accustomed to whatever is attacking it.
Let's take a break at 19 minutes after 6, Kenya's biggest conversation. We'll be back shortly. We are live streaming on SpiceFM KE, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. Somebody's asking the Kakamega frequency. If you're there, just try out 96.7 coming off Eldoret and see if you catch us. Let us know. 96.7 is the Western Kenya frequency. Good morning, 20 after 6.
24/7 around the world non-stop. This is Spice FM.
The BetKing Premier League brings you the Mashemeji Derby this week. On Friday, Tusker faces Nairobi City Stars, and on Saturday, the big one, the Mashemeji Derby, as FC Leopards go up against Gor Mahia. All matches are exclusive to BTV, Channel 172 on aerial recorder and Channel 463 on satellite, and will be played at 3:15 p.m. Get connected to Star Times for only 999 shillings on aerial recorder or 2,699 shillings on satellite. Don't miss the Mashemeji Derby on Saturday, 31st of July. Star Times, the official broadcaster of the BetKing Premier League.
They are stealing every opportunity that you should have. They are stealing your health facilities. They are stealing all the progress that you planned for your child. They are stealing all the benefits that university students should have. Your livelihood is slowly being taken away from you, which means your life is also being slowly taken away from you as you watch.
Cut through the noise and stay in the know by texting the word TSR to 22840 to receive these and more highlights and insights from the Situation Room directly to your mobile phone. Don't miss out on the latest from Kenya's biggest conversation. SMS TSR to 22840.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads. You're listening to
at 14. We'll come down to lows of 12 today, highs of 20. It's raining in Nyeri at 13, highs of 17. We'll see highs of 22 in a mostly cloudy Nakuru this morning. 13 degrees and clear in Eldoret, highs of 21. 28 will be the high in Kisumu. It's raining at 19 and mostly cloudy conditions at 17 in Kakamega, highs of 26 and lows of 16. 22 will be the low in Mombasa where it's raining. It's also going to be highs of 28 in Malindi, raining this morning at 23. Mostly clear conditions in Kampala at 19 with highs of 26. We'll see highs of 30 in Dar es Salaam. Mostly clear conditions at 21. 6 degrees and clear in Johannesburg, highs of 19 and lows of 5. Mostly clear in Lagos at 25. We'll see highs of 30. Clear conditions at 21 in Kinshasa, highs of 32. Sunny conditions out in Beijing for a change at 25. Highs of 27 and lows of 22 today. We'll see lows of 14 in Paris, which is what it is right now, going to highs of 25. 21 will be the high in a mostly clear London at 15. And it's Thursday night still in New York. Coming into Friday, we'll see highs of 25 and lows of 22.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. Everything nice.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.
All right, it's 23 minutes after 6. Well, if you want to watch the Olympics, just tune into KTN Home. Olympics is now on. Those are things that were happening earlier were, just
An introduction to the Olympics.
introduction to the Olympics. Currently, 100 meters heats for women is taking place. KTN Home. Who's online?
Everybody is online. Francis Odipo says, please say hi to my role model, Siti Muga.
Romodo.
Role model. Modro.
Thank you very much, sir.
Voila. Otieno Jr. is tuned in from Kino. Ivewa Francis is tuning from Mombasa. And Loy Tok Tok. Where's Loy Tok Tok?
Loy
Kajiado
Tok
County?
Tok.
Loy Tok Tok.
Yes, it's in Kajiado County.
Rift Valley.
Ah, okay.
You go like this,
And then you go like
and
that.
then you go like this.
Yes.
Okay.
But also, if you go along Mombasa Road, around Emali, you
Turn
can go like this.
this,
And then you continue.
Go.
And then you end up in
At the
Loitoktok.
foothills of Mount Kilimanjaro.
It's like when you're talking to someone on the phone and they say, so which way do I go? And the Jew. Okay. From where?
And when you
Mali
get
Nico and the Jew.
Yes. And then,
Teremuka.
and then when you get there, Wendy!
Okay.
Janice Njoroge, are you in Loitoktok town or where are you in Loitoktok?
David Kiari was Subukia says hello from Subukia. Beda Ashley tuning from Machakos this morning, and Phil F.A. I'll call you F.A. Collins is tuned in from Bakassi this morning. Rogers Lai tuned in from Mombasa. Nixon Otieno says, good morning, awesome trio, listening from South Sea. Charity is tuned in from Nakuru. And Robert is also tuned in from Mombasa. Zal Kulecho is tuned in from Juja. And Laban is tuned in from Nandi. Tunje is also tuned in. And Yaw. Oh, sorry, actually, it's not Yaw, it's Yao. Yao is tuned in from Accra. And says, good morning, everybody. So many folks online today. Thank you for joining us this Friday. Good morning.
Abdulkader says he's tuned in as usual from Komarok. Komarok's. You've seen that first hit city,
There's a
100
second
meters. There's a second, eh? The person who was won is called Mujinga. She's from Switzerland. Mujinga Kambuji.
You know, when it comes to nationalities, please I think nationalities have given the term international a really good flavor. Because when I think of nationality, when I hear Swiss, I expect to see a white person. Okay? Germany, another white person. Great Britain have been at it for some time. There are enough black people there.
There's a lady called
America,
Hassan, who used to run for Eritrea.
yes.
Now she's from the Netherlands. And she
Precisely.
will run tomorrow and will give the likes of Helen Obiri a run for their money.
What it tells you is that the athletic fraternity of the planet are the ones who are really truly making us international.
Yes, indeed. Today's proverb then?
Well, today's proverb has nothing to do with the Olympics.
Let it have some running or something.
No, this is Animal Week. Okay? Now, you had an issue with the buffalo and the elephant. So, I specifically chose a proverb that only speaks about the elephant.
Okay.
Okay? The jungle is stronger than the elephant.
The jungle is stronger than the elephant.
Eh?
Okay. Okay. The jungle is stronger than the elephant.
It's a proverb, Baba.
Sawa.
Eh.
So the jungle is mightier.
It is infinitely mighty.
Remove the elephant, the buffalo is mightier.
Remove the jungle, the
Remove
elephant is
the-
powerless.
Yes.
You know, include the jungle.
And
Elephant.
now the elephant is no might. Okay. Yeah, that day we were very unlucky with your proverb.
Why were we unlucky again?
Because we were talking about an animal called Mbo, and then somebody from Mboni came.
Well, he gave it a lovely twist, didn't he?
Yes,
You know?
he did.
Surely. So let's look at the headlines.
Of judges and $6 million.
Hiya.
So the Standard is reporting it as 5.7 million shillings.
Everybody's just using their own conversion
I'm
rate.
telling you, detectives found 6.1 million shillings in US dollars at the chambers of High Court judges Agri Mushalule and Juma Chitembwe during the much criticized dramatic arrest last week. The DCI investigation says in court filings. So this one seems like something that is not going away anytime soon, and it appears as though it will not, as many other things, be brushed under the carpet. All right. According to the Chief Inspector Felix Carissa Banzi, the detectives found a total of $57,000 US dollars. He says $50,000 US dollars was found on an unidentified woman who was in Justice Mushalule's chambers during the search, while $7,000 were found with Justice Juma Chitembwe. The investigator says the meeting for exchange for the money between Justice Mushalule and an unidentified person described as, unidentified persons described as brokers was facilitated, by Justice Chitembwe. So in his response to the petition filed by the Kenya Magistrates and Judges Association, challenging the interrogation of the two judges by the DCI, the police officer and investigator from the Serious Crimes Unit says he had been investigating select judges and judicial officers accused of corruption. The response was drawn for him and filed in court yesterday by the AG. However, the officers claim that the money was found during the search and that it is contrary to the details contained in an inventory filed by Justice Mushalule in court last week. The judge filed the document in a separate judicial review case where he is seeking to stop any summonses or investigations by the police in relation to the corruption allegations. So in that case, Justice Mushelule says nothing was found after the police conducted a search in every corner of the office. To support this, he has attached the inventory document, which indicates that the search was conducted in the presence of 4 police officers. Others present were Mushelule himself and a Mr. Kuria Opetia. So, the judges say the police officers stormed his chambers, ostensibly to carry out a search for an unknown amount of money that he is alleged to have received in suspicious circumstances. So it would seem as if they came on a fishing expedition and really didn't know what was going on. The police, on the other hand, are saying, well, they'd been investigating this for some time and they had, sufficient leads to say that there was something
They
going
were
on
acting
here.
on intelligence.
Absolutely. But Mushelule says here, it seems as though somebody may have said something and all of this information had already been documented.
If you look at Mushelule's application, Mushelule's application basically is focusing a lot on the technicalities.
It is.
On did they have a search warrant?
Yes.
On had they informed me that they were coming? Those are the technicalities, and then presenting a bit of information on what they found. The DCI, in their response, have come and said, okay, so this is it. We had intelligence that there's somebody who was acting as a middle person, as a broker, who wanted to pass on money to some judge. This was supposed to have happened on the previous day at about 7 p.m. And we were already ready. It was to take place at 7 p.m. at one of these judges' residences. We were ready to pounce. However, in the last minute, that was changed, and it was now moved to 7 a.m. in a judge's chambers. At 7, the police, we were ready. It was, however, moved. It didn't happen until that about 2 p.m. when we got intelligence that it was not going to happen in chamber 233, it was going to happen in chamber 231. So we went to chamber and we found, and this is what we got. This is what we got from the search. And the affidavit signed by the DCI chief inspector is saying, what the judges are not telling you is the actual truth of what transpired inside. And what I'm swearing is this is what happened. We came, we searched, we found, we went with them, and this is what we got.
And I think he went further on to say that from there, had they not moved at the time that they had moved, all of these things that they had found would not have been
They would never
there.
have
They would never have known that this was going on.
Yep.
So the intelligence that they were acting upon then for them was pretty solid. So
This one is going to be
it's
interesting.
going to be very interesting.
This is going to be a very interesting one. It's okay.
It's interesting. If you read the report that is filed in the Star, this is the twist that they give it. As usual, it has now emerged.
Yes.
Details have emerged.
Yes, that police found 6 million in the chambers of Justice Agri Muchilu on Thursday last week when they ambushed the 2 judges. No money was found on Judge Muchelule, but Justice Juma Chitembe was found with $7,000. Police said in an affidavit a further 50,000, about 500, was retrieved from an unidentified woman. The document said in an affidavit that on Wednesday, the DCI stated that both Judge Chitembwe and the mystery woman were in Mchelule's chambers when detectives burst in. This story is a bit confusing because on the one hand they say money was not found, and then on the other hand they also state money was found.
They say it was not found on the person.
On the person.
But
it was found with somebody who was in the chamber.
Yes.
This particular article is badly written. Yes. Just stating it as it is.
But you see now these are the technicalities that Eric is talking about, because that is what these the judges or the accused will use to kind of argue out the case. And the law also can be extremely technical in that part, that, all right, you're saying that I was involved, well, the money was not found on me. The money would have been found with another individual. We do not know
somebody
what
else who had the money.
Somebody else had the
Does
money.
that person work for me?
That person does not work for me. How then can you connect?
Are they
the
an
two of
official
us?
of this chamber?
They were in my chambers. How do you know that they were coming to see
If you've ever had a discussion with people who work for the police force or people who work for the DCI, the one thing that you will know, not surmise, know, they are very thorough. There are times when one can impute mischief, but do you remember this case of the drug hall in Malindi?
Yep.
Okay, do you remember that case?
Yes. In
Oh.
Kaswarina.
Yes, I was speaking to a while back to a very senior police officer at that particular point in time. And they told me that, you know, we had been watching that compound for months. We saw people moving in, moving out. We just took in the information. Said when we pounced, we knew exactly what we were
We were
doing.
sure.
We were not, there was no guesswork.
Yeah.
This is why I'm saying that the defense then it would be on the technicality.
Yep.
Because they are very aware of what you're saying.
Yes, but then let me add this other twist. The moment you have people who become the little birds that whisper in the ears of the DCI, I then have a problem there. Because such individuals can be planted. True. That possibility exists. So, I leave it there.
Yeah. If you fall for the trap of the honey trap, oh, shauri yako, it just tells something about you.
Doesn't it just?
This somebody who is unidentified, hint, hint. In all these stories, there's some unidentified person, unidentified person,
anonymous.
unidentified. Hint, hint. 26 minutes, 24 to 7.
"24/7 around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM.
Shell Helix HX7 and HX8 with Flexi Molecule technology, an engine oil that overcomes today's tough driving conditions and actively adapts to changing engine temperatures. Shell Helix. Drive on.
As the Kenyans are roared into the home straight here. 4 Kenyan queens have lit up this balmy Bahamian night.
It's where the rivalry is unmatched, where the soul meets the track, where the great are distinguished from the good. An arena where the records are broken.
A new world record. It's not just been beaten, it's been obliterated.
A stage where the legends are born. For Team Kenya, the Olympics is more than just a sport. It is our tradition. It's an event that has put Kenya on the roadmap. The Standard Group lets you watch every minute and every action live in the 20.
Spice FM, Malindi.
It's building up slowly on Mombasa Road as we're getting out into the city. We're going to see that the Southern Bypass is actually looking pretty good. Last evening, the Southern Bypass was an absolute mess. There was something going on we do not know. Thankfully, though, nobody's dealing with the dregs of that this morning. It seems all clear through to Langata Road without too much of an issue. A little bit of traffic building up on said Langata Road right now, but nothing too crazy. Also, a little bit on Jogo Road. Makadara out then towards Makongeni. And then to Kaloleni, but we're not seeing any drama there thus far. It looks like it's going to be a good Friday. Okay, I take back my words. Let's look at Thika Road. It's already clogging up. As you then get towards the Pangani underpass, it's going to take you some time to get out of that. Coming out of Westlands, though, it does look pretty good. You can use the Red Hill Link Road, but right now it doesn't seem that it's necessary to do so because traffic is flowing swimmingly, as it were. Let's cross our fingers and hope it remains that way. Should it not, you can get in touch. SpiceFMKE on Twitter. Text on 40127. What do we want to do? We want to keep it moving this Friday.
24/7 around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM.
Do your callers frequently ask you what stories made the news headlines? Introducing the Call Bulletin, courtesy of Skiza. You can now keep your callers informed and up to date with the latest news updates from KTN News, courtesy of Skiza. Dial star 811 star 795 hash to subscribe today. Set the tone with Skiza.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah.
You're listening to Spice FM. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4.
20 minutes to 7. We are still looking at the headlines. So, ODM is a headline grabber. Everybody else is talking about leaving NASA.
ODM have left NASA.
And then ODM leaves NASA. Surely. Ay, buena. You know, out of the blues. Pop out. ODM has threatened to withdraw 153 million shillings offer to its partners after announcing its exit from NASA. After a NEC meeting yesterday, members of the party's top organ resolved to reconsider the decision to share political parties' funding with their coalition partners. Should they continue chest-thumping for pushing Raila and ODM into submission? It is emerging that Raila made the surprise decision to pull out of the moribund coalition to engage new players without conditions from his current partners, who have insisted that it's time for the former premier to back one of them for the presidency. Also, Raila is said to be keen on engaging the former NASA partners individually going into the next poll, since some of them have already made up their mind. Already, Amani's Musalia Mudavadi and Wiper's Kalonzo Musyoka have resolved to exit the coalition, but are yet to formally write to the office of the Registrar of Political Parties. At least 3 parties must exit for the NASA to collapse. Now, if they actually all go through and file with the Registrar of Political Parties, then NASA will be left with Fort Kenya.
So it's just Fort Kenya.
Because Fort Kenya, until their matter of who owns Fort Kenya is resolved, they cannot write to the Register of Political Parties.
Because
at least she has already said she will only recognize
parties,
the one that is declared as the owner by court.
So owner.
Yes, owner. So ODM, right to registrar. Pop! Amani, right to registrar. Kalonzo, right to registrar with Wiper. NASA is now left with Fort Kenya.
NASA equals to?
Fort Kenya.
Yes.
You know this, if you know, we're talking about histories a while back, and this is what I find truly amazing with us in the media and the headlines that we keep putting out. I have, just taking a casual glance at our politics, the thing that I have always found interesting is that this, with regards to Raila Odinga, he has exhibited something that I have actually not seen in the political realm anywhere in the world. The man loses an election, clearly, loses another. The statement that should follow is that this person's political career is dimming or is gone or is finished, is a washout. But that isn't the case. So what it speaks to is that there must be something about politics that this fellow actually understands very, very well. He may not understand many other things well, but this particular politics, he gets it. So every time he is in tight corner, this isn't the first time he's been in this position before. No.
He seems to have an understanding of what to do. Or some kind of foresight.
Do you remember the time of the two brothers, or he's just well informed?
That's what I was going to say. Or he's well informed about, temperatures, situations, and then he's able to act on them.
You know, they say good fortune favors a prepared mind. Yes.
They're two brothers.
The case of the two brothers, do you remember? And there was a lot of noise that came from the former Prime Minister regarding them, saying, there are these guys, there's this issue. And it was, same. What are you talking about? Now, not long after that came the merger with KANU. Now, that merger with KANU, even I looked and wondered and said, what on earth is happening here? KANU. How is this going to sell? And then I also asked the same question with regards to 2002. This merger with Kibaki, how is this Kikuyu going to get votes in Luo Nyanza? Okay.
And it happened.
In each of those cases, I saw the very thing that I did not anticipate or I did not expect, following the logic that I was using at the time. So I revised the way I look at this thing. And I said, I'm looking at this thing wrongly. I am using the logic that I apply in everyday life to a political situation. And yet, political situations in Kenya have a life of their own. And the life of their own that they have is this. There are discussions that people have in the political realm that none of us is privy to. There are decisions that are made in the political realm that none of us is privy to. What we are fed is the snippets that they allow us to consume and to discuss. But what is really happening? Like, I am certain that NASA fraternity, I'm not even bothered about what I'm reading here. Those people are talking.
Things will change.
Totally. All this talk here will erupt and, metamorphosize into something else. And you'll be like, hold on a minute. This was not the case. Yeah. So it doesn't even, create any kind of knicker twisting situation because you just know that in a few months, everybody will be back to where they are right now.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. It's politics. And you must read it and understand it from the handbook of politics. Because remember the discussion about, are Central Kenya actually playing Raila Odinga or are they not? Look, in the political realm, it's not anyone playing anyone. It's people deciding what combination will be the winning combination. That's what it boils down to. Forget all these things of, this so-and-so likes so-and-so. So. What combination do you think will be a winning combination?
Well, it's all going to be a wait and see, isn't it?
Actually, that really is the point.
So we will wait.
I actually don't wait and see. No.
You can already see.
I can actually see. The two examples I gave earlier, they gave me sight. I can see.
You can already see.
I can see.
Did you also see that Kenya will spend 100 billion shillings to service Chinese loans? Did you see that?
Yeah.
From the budget of 3.56 trillion, 100 billion will go towards paying its mountain of debt to China, underlining the country's increasingly worrying dependence on loans from the Asian giant. So data from the PBO, which is the Parliamentary Budget Office, which is mandated to analyze the annual budgets and advise lawmakers accordingly, shows that Nairobi will send 119.7 billion shillings, representing 3.2% of the total budget, to Beijing. The repayments are for loans that will mature during the year, plus interest, and they represent the largest proportion of monies due to a single lender this year. So, good chunk of that money is going to pay loans. And so now it's apparently casting a shadow on the worrying state of Kenya's debt. 30%.
The story says it's worrying dependence on loans from China. I don't know what's worrying.
No, I think it's just a worrying dependence on loans, period. I don't think it's a worrying dependence on loans specifically from China because they can be from anywhere else.
Because they're saying that China has now become the largest lender to Kenya. 30% of all our debts, our cash that we are paying back to any creditors, external creditors, is going to China, dwarfing other multilateral lenders such as World Bank, AFDB, France, Japan, and institutional local borrowers. Fact of the matter is, money has been borrowed, and money is going to be paid. 100 billion shillings going to China this year. It followed. I mean, it's one of those things.
It was what was going to go to them.
Yeah, it's not anything new. It's just that now this time we're breaking down and saying, all right, so this is actually going to be 100 billion this year going to this particular one lender. 97 billion to Exim Bank, 22 billion to the Development Bank of China. It's okay, but the majority of the loans clearly for infrastructure have come from this particular one source. The issue is about the details of these contracts. That is where the issue is. When the contracts are signed, what exactly have we signed? What are the actual details of the loans? Remember, it was even said here by Senator Muthui Kilonzo, it has been said by others before.
Collateral.
We have allowed the National Treasury a window to go and borrow. But then, when they decide whom to borrow from and for what purpose, we have no say at all as parliamentarians. And in fact, that's what even Opiyo Wandayi of the Public Accounts Committee of the National Assembly is now pushing and saying that every time you go and sign a new loan, you should come and report to Parliament, we are getting into a new loan with such and such a lender, and these are the details. For transparency's sake, and off the back of that story, House team is now calling for talks on loss of taxpayers' billions. Parliament is inviting the National Treasury and other key agencies to discuss legal loopholes where taxpayers have lost billions of shillings every financial year. This meeting is being convened by the National Assembly's Public Accounts Committee to discuss reported late involvement of the Attorney General in execution of contracts as well as delay in settlement of court awards. The Watchdog Committee further seeks deliberation on challenges faced by the Auditor General and MPs in scrutinizing expenditure by the national defence and security sector. He is also seeking to discuss stalled projects and rising pending bills. In a letter by the National Assembly Clerk Michael Sialai, the committee has invited the Big Nine for a roundtable meeting on August 19th. Those are National Assembly Speaker Justin Muthui, the Head of Public Service Joseph Kenyua, Chief Justice Martha Koome, Attorney General Paul Kariuki, Treasury CS Ukuri Atani, Auditor General Nancy Gadongo, Controller of Budget Margaret Nyakango, EACC CEO Twali Mbarak, and the DPP Nordin Haji, saying, guys, come, let's have this conversation. Because it comes to us at the Public Accounts Committee at the very end that there is a report by the Auditor General that something could have happened. We are investigating after the fact. And then we realize that in some of these cases, the Auditor General was not involved in signing of contracts. Remember the MES and the others? Until the very end. And in some cases, the Auditor General gives his advice, and the advice is not followed either by a government department or a parastatal. So we need to harmonize this. The other is a lot of money is allocated to security. And as MPs, we don't have transparency or even visibility in what the items are in those security.
National security.
Yes. Defense, police.
National security.
That's it. Serikali.
That national security.
Yeah, it's top secret.
That you're not going to be told.
You're not going to. Now let's have a way of finding out. At least, are there other watchdogs that have access to this?
What I wonder is everything about the procurement processes of these departments secretive, really? Like, for instance, you are buying uniforms. What's secretive about you buying uniforms?
Nothing much.
Okay? You're buying computers. What's secretive about buying computers? All right? Now, if you're building some sleuth-like underground facility for doing God knows what that people do, I understand that, and we don't need to be told. Okay?
That can be secret.
That keep that one secret, kabisa. It is okay. We understand. Okay? But other things, like you're buying new planes, for heaven's sake.
For crying out loud. Yeah,
you're buying a ship,
tell us.
For heaven's sake.
You're buying guns.
It's these secretive
really hide
issues
them,
that landed a certain minister of defense in a previous government into trouble when we were supposed to be buying helicopters and went and bought second-hand helicopters from South Africa. And then somebody else who came before this particular defense minister told us we were buying new planes, and those planes were not new. They were donated to us by the Jordanian people who had received them earlier from the U.S. government. So I mean, come on. If you're buying an F2, F3, F15, whatever the F is, for heaven's sake, tell us so that we understand in great detail.
For F's sake.
Yes. After all, it is a plane, F12, F13, F15. And if the ships we're buying are also F ships, then we also need to know.
I agree.
F it.
I agree. 100%.
This meeting by Opiyo Wandayi, let's hope it goes on. And then, you see, the bottom line is, we need people doing their work. And if Opiyo Wandayi and his committee feel that, as a Public Accounts Committee, we basically are coming and at the very end and there's nothing much that we can do, say it clearly. There's nothing much we can do. If the Attorney General can complain and say we give advice, but a state corporation goes ahead and decides what it wants to do.
Wants to do, yeah.
You know, there's an act in the UK that one hears about, the Official Secrets Act. One hears of it all the time. We also have it in this country.
Yeah.
But it has an expiry date. After a certain period of time, what was previously very secret is allowed to be not so secret anymore. Okay? So, is it possible, all right, since we don't want to know what you're buying now, can you tell us at least what you bought 10 years ago so that we have an idea of the trends? Because unfortunately, under this secrecy that I think and I believe is necessary with these departments, it is possible for a lot of misdeeds to be carried out.
This is the thing. That
Unfortunately.
in as much as the secrecy is important, that it also then creates a situation where maybe a lot more than should be made secret then is done just so.
Even things that shouldn't be made secret.
Even things that should not be made secret
certainly
are
not,
then hidden.
Yes.
And hiding under this cover of, well, we have the purview, we have a little wiggle room to keep things under wraps, as it were. And I think then it can be used, I think also can be used as a reason why information is not being shared. Oh, there's a Secrecy Act. Without knowing that, actually those things should be out in the open.
Yeah. Yeah. They shouldn't be hidden. What's in the Business Daily, City?
Well, the Business Daily says, among other things, that motorists will be spared the pain of rising crude oil costs after the state opted to retain subsidies on fuel prices to diffuse outrage by Kenyans already squeezed by the high cost of living. The headline is Kenya to retain monthly fuel subsidy. Okay? Now, this,
It shocked you, Abi?
No, it's not the shock. I'm looking at this article and I'm thinking, we are not really being spared the pain. Not really. Not really. Because remember when crude oil hit rock bottom? And it wasn't
below rock bottom.
Yes, it wasn't for a day. It was for a very decent season. We didn't experience or enjoy any noticeable, in my view, reduction in the cost of fuel.
You know what you were doing at that point? When you were buying all that, you were paying a high tax, and part of that high tax was going into this subsidy. Now you are enjoying the benefit of what you did then.
There's no enjoyment here.
No, that's what you were doing, CT. What you were doing then was investing for the future. You see now, the future is here today, and fuel prices are rising, but they will not rise for you. You know why? Because when fuel prices were low, you put in some money.
Eric,
it's a whole concept
as
of
you're saying
saving.
it, we have not stopped putting money into this.
Yeah, for
But
continued
according to this report, the response was to diffuse the outrage that Kenyans express when we're told that there was a likelihood of fuel prices going up by some astronomical amount. Okay? Why am I saying this? They will sneak in. This subsidy is the story currently. But in the not too distant future, believe me, you're going to hear something about fuel prices going up. You'll hear some story. It'll go up. We all know the reason why these things are so high have nothing to do with the cost of crude oil, the cost of fuel. We know this. It has to do with our taxes. We know that. You pay for this, it lands, you pay. It doesn't land, you pay. It's on
Whether it lands or not, you pay.
It's on its way to Malaba, you pay. You are fueling, you pay. You pay. You keep paying. Yes.
I will read you something that was sent to me by somebody who's in Finland on their fuel prices. Okay? The tax on fuel in Finland is 60% of the pump price.
Yes.
Okay? 60%. However,
you
see what it's supposed to do? People don't complain. Taxes in Finland are at that average of 60%.
They are, 60%.
But why don't they complain?
Get up, tell your child go to school. They walk to school for free until university. You fall sick, you cross the road, you go to a hospital for free, go back home. All those things are sorted.
Yes. Housing. Not a problem.
Not a problem.
Welfare system, strong, thoroughly strong. Citizens fund in place so that at any one time, should things go belly up, every single citizen of the nation is taken care of.
Time for us to take a break. Let's hear what's in the news this morning. Good morning, 8-7 a.m.
Spice up your life.
Good morning. This is the Newswire. I'm Leah Ubaga. Tokyo Olympics athletics events began today as Kenya continued to seek their first 2020 Olympics medal in the 3,000 meter steeplechase. Abraham Kibiwot and Benjamin Keegan dominated their heats, clocking semi-finals qualification times. The 800 meters turned disastrous as experienced Kenyans Eunice Sam and Emily Cherotich failed to qualify for the semi-finals. However, Mary Moraa made the cut for the semis, finishing third in Heat 4. Later, world champion Helen Obiri will lead the Kenyan contingent in an onslaught in the 500 meters heats alongside Lilian Kasait and Agnes Tirop. Cases of police officers killing themselves, their colleagues, and pouring frustrations online have triggered concerns about the status of mental health in the disciplined forces. While terming the incidents worrying, senators have called for an urgent remedy to protect the officers and their families. The legislators summoned Interior CS Fred Matiang'i to explain practical measures and targeted interventions to address mental health care among the officers. This comes as yesterday the family of the late fugitive cop Caroline Kangongo, who is said to have killed her colleague and a Juja businessman, also called on the government to address mental health issues among police officers.
Kumaanisha kuna shida ambayo inaendelea kwa community yetu na serikali imeweka kichwa yao kwa nyasi. The government is burying its head in the sand and behaving that everything is well. It is not well.
As a father, as a mother, mlee katika hali ya wewe kama mama, mlee katika hali ya wewe kama baba.
Foreign currency worth more than 6 million shillings was recovered from High Court Judge Said Chitembwe and an unnamed woman in the company of the judge and his colleague Justice Agrim Chelule last week. A DCI investigator, Felix Karisa, who is investigating the two judges, has in an affidavit told the High Court that the Judges and Magistrates Association that is opposed to an investigation of the two has been insincere in their court application intended at stopping the DCI from executing its functions. This comes as Justice Agrim Chelule claimed that the ambush search at his chambers and questioning at DCI was an attack on the independence of the judiciary.
You know, the independence of the judiciary is not for the faint-hearted. No. It must be. It's not for the faint-hearted. It is not. And we are going to fight this to the bitter end.
Kenya has benefited a lot from President Uhuru Kenyatta's visit to the UK. President Kenyatta has held various meetings with Prime Minister Boris Johnson discussing a number of issues for the benefit of the citizens of the two nations. In a meeting with Johnson, the UK will give Kenya 817,000 doses of the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine. The doses are expected to be shipped into the country anytime soon. Another benefit is the signing of an agreement to enable qualified healthcare providers from the country to work in the UK. This comes as Uhuru's 3-day visit comes to an end. That's the Newswire. I'm Leah Ubaga.
Yes, as expected, traffic is building up on Mombasa Road, heading out in and outbound on city. Okay, everybody's asking every day, why is it so bad mid-morning on Mombasa Road? Well, we know that certain section right around Cabanas is being worked on, so it's going to slow down traffic considerably. We're also seeing traffic building up on Langata Road, going towards Wilson Airport, headed out towards the Timor roundabout. It's going to pick up for some time. Getting onto Landis Road is not too much of an issue today. However, it's building up at Makadara on Jogo Road, and it's going to take some time with that. Where else is it looking crazy? On Thika Road, past Survey, all the way then through to the Pangani underpass. And then we see some traffic around Moranga Road, but not too terrible. Looks like it's going to be a good Friday, but we're going to have to wait and see. If you get stuck somewhere, let us know. You find a good route, and there are many this morning. Share those. SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text on 40127.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start
5
your day.
after 7. Good morning, happy Friday. The Olympics is on. You can watch that on KTN Home. Yeah, the track and field has taken place. It's taken place from early this morning. City, today's proverb?
Today's proverb. The jungle is stronger than the elephant.
The jungle is stronger than the elephant.
You know the imagery?
Trampled on all the time, but it survives.
Yes, it does. The shrubbery is what actually gets the brunt of the elephant's movements or forays. But by and large, the forest is more than the shrubbery.
Boyd Barsite is hearing what you're calling city. Ndu.
Sorry?
Boyd is hearing how you... Somebody in the studio keeps pronouncing CT as sweetie.
Because he is. You got to see the message behind the words. Boit. Sugar Muga.
Sawa basi. Ni sawa. Let's talk about something. You know, we've been talking about this blue economy, 1, effect on local fishermen, 2, 3, opening up the coast, especially making sure that people can cross over from mainland to island to mainland easily, right? So there's a project that has been mooted for a long time. A deal was signed in September 2019 between Kenya's Treasury CS Ukur Yatani and Japanese ambassador to Kenya, Ryoichi Horie. This was for the construction of a bridge at Likoni. It's called the Mombasa Gates Bridge. It'll cost 84 billion shillings. This will make it easier for people to cross from Mombasa Island onto Likoni. Okay? It'll make it easier for people who are currently stuck with only using the ferry or the newly opened Liwatoni floating bridge. Okay? Now, after the signing of this deal, the next thing that was supposed now to happen is to identify the person, the company that's going to undertake the works. This took a while. It should have started in June last year. It took a while. The company has now been identified. It's called Rapcon Association Limited. Repcan Association Limited. The people who currently...
They're the ones who are going to build the bridge.
They're the ones who are going to build the bridge. Okay? With the support from JICA.
Okay.
The people, the local community, had a meeting with the representatives of this particular project where they were talking about, 1, compensation, and 2, the support by the local community of the project. The local community people spoke here, and the story is covered in page 22 of the Standard this morning. And they were saying, we completely support this project. We have wholly embraced this project, but we need to be well compensated as we seek alternative places to continue with our daily activities once the work begins. And this is fish dealer Mohammed Abdallah Chirondo, who's quoted as saying. The other person who's also quoted as in this particular story is Hamisi Momoe, who's the chairman of the Likoni Beach Management Unit, BMU. He says there's little or no engagement about what concerns us. We are not even allowed to air our views in this project. He said despite lots of groundwork having started, they are yet to be told their compensation package. We are not opposed to this project, which we believe will ease transport and help open up the entire Likoni and the South Coast. But we want to be considered as people whose means of livelihoods will be affected. That whole conversation about stakeholder engagement and carrying the stakeholders along and making sure that they understand, clearly they understand the importance of the project.
Mm-hmm.
They know that the project is going to take place. What they are concerned with right now and about is, so what happens to us who have been making our livelihoods from this particular area? What kind of compensation is going to come to us? Are you going to determine what we should be compensated without our input? Or are you going to involve us and get our input, then we discuss and mutually agree on the compensation? And I think the story here is they're expressing that frustration of, it's like you guys will decide at a boardroom somewhere and come and tell us, now, kila mtu atapata 1,300, laki tano, kila mtu ende nyumbani. And
maybe that's actually not what would be the best decision to take.
Yes.
So bringing them along in the conversation is what is more important than deciding for them. Because the truth of the matter is that you've come in as an external force. External. You are not aware of how they have been working this. You're seeing it's from up here. But these individuals are here. They're actually the worker bees whose livelihoods are being affected. The way in which they work also being greatly affected, things that they would previously own being greatly affected.
Yeah.
And I think that if you look at it, it kind of spills over into many other areas whereby you decide for people where you're all supposed to be working together, should be working together. And I think that a lot of times the authority of these decisions does not take into consideration that you're working with other human beings. Because that's what we're looking at, down to the nitty-gritty. How are people eking out a living for themselves? And now here you are touching on something that directly involves that livelihood. Surely they must be involved in the process, not to dictate, but to contribute to the eventual decision that you will make.
You know, this project didn't begin last year, the year before. This project has been in the making for the longest time. It has gone through several governments. Okay. Now, if you're talking about an opportunity to actually have public participation, it is this one. You have an idea when you plan to start. You even have Kenya have told us they did the feasibility study. They know it's going to take 36 months to complete. Or if you know all that, then you also know where it is. It's going to interfere with the livelihood of people.
Yeah.
Now, surely, is it really that difficult for actual public participation, not these representative aspects of it? No. You actually talk to the people whose lives are going to be involved. But I want to move away from that story slightly and just add something to it by saying, when you talk about development partners, you really must look with a keen eye of appreciation at what the country of Japan, the land of the rising sun, has done in respect to the cooperation they've had with our country. You know why I'm saying this? We're talking JICA, we're talking Likoni. Start with Sabake River. Come to Kilifi. Come to Mtwapa. Come to Nyali Bridge. And now this. If you're talking about development assistance that has actually, one, brought the coast together, because when you build a bridge, that's what you do. All the pieces that were apart are now brought together. So if you're talking about tourism, I would argue that the building of these bridges have made it possible for tourism to be what it is at the coast like nothing else that has actually happened. Now, I say this because I look at even JICA's contribution to the Kenya Medical Research Institute. It's not that they've stopped assisting, but very many of the buildings that you see there, the people who actually helped bring Kemri to what it is. Why do I say development partners? There are many people who, it is claimed, are development partners, but you would be hard-pressed to actually find. You'll ask, yes, they've helped us, but how exactly did this help come into being? What is it that they did that has enabled us to actually appreciate that they've helped us? Because those bridges certainly help. You cannot say the bridges don't help. Whatever help they gave Kemri, it exists. You can see it.
You're a typical Kenyan.
Yes.
You want to see things.
Actually,
Physical, tangible.
I must see things.
Mheshimiwa umefanya nini hapa?
Actually, Eric, you are so spot on. You know why I must see it? Huh? If you tell us, you know this, hii barabara tunaita Ngong Road, okay? It's also the Japanese assistance. Huh?
Yep.
Do you know how long that road was a dual carriage on paper?
A long time.
Hey, my friend, long doesn't quite cover it. I am saying infrastructure is at the heart of development. So when somebody provides you with infrastructure, which you can see, by the way, see with your eyes?
Got it.
Yes, surely. Can you ask for a better partner? Look at Kasarani, the sports center. It was put up by the Chinese. Now, are you telling me that that building which I can see, that compound that I can see, is not something monumental? It is monumental. And if I'm to go by Eric's assertion, I can see it.
You can see it. You can go to Juja and find an entire university that was put up with the aid of JICA.
Yes! You can see it. There's no story to it. You can see it.
So now that you say it, you see and not see, our president is coming back from the UK and he's coming back with a lot of goodies. Some you'll not be able to see, okay? Because
we'll eventually
we
see
are not
it.
coming to build. But it's coming to go into, like, for example, supporting education, opening up the markets, allowing Kenyan nurses to go and work in the UK's NHS.
But you can see those things.
You'll be
You
asking,
see people living.
Yes, you can see.
Kenyans work in the US, but those are Kenyans who went and looked for jobs. No.
I understand, but those are things you can see. Eric, everything you're saying can be seen.
Yes. Indirectly.
No.
Like for instance, you see, everybody who walks by Camry will be able to see the building that was put up with the help of the Japanese government. All right? But those people may not be able to see other partners who have helped Camry with the research work that Camry has done over the very many years.
Absolutely.
No.
The US government, CDC, have also done a sterling job in contributing to a lot of the work. Welcome Trust have built an entire campus in Kilifi. That's a Camry center. But you can see.
Built.
There's a reason why I keep focusing on the you can see. When we had this, the free education that was rolled out, and the British government, among the other partners who have contributed significantly to it, you could see the number of students increasing in the classes. See, focus, emphasize, you can see, touch, feel.
Real.
Absolutely. You know this Kenya Science TS Training College, which is now part of the University of Nairobi.
Yeah.
It was put up by, I believe, the Swedes, if I'm not wrong. Are you telling me that over the years that it has existed, the Canadians put up KTTTC? Okay? Are we saying that those things which we can see, the Germans are building us a technical university? You can see it. I'm a true Kenyan.
Okay.
Nisawa. So, we've seen a lot of property, real estate, a big issue, land in the country, very close to people's hearts. And the off-plan kind of idea was then something that was bitten into by very many. That you could spend a lower amount of money on a house and then give it to the developer, and they will essentially finish it for you once you bought it at that price. But unfortunately, the story has been for many people, especially those who may not be residents in the country but are investing, is that now, unfortunately, some of these companies are, not fulfilling their plans. So Banda Homes has been sued for delivering or for not delivering on a paid-for house, and they're not the first. They've become the third big player in the real estate industry to face imminent collapse. This comes as the Netherlands, as a Netherlands-based investor seeks to have the company liquidated for failing to deliver her home or refund the 5.9 million shillings she paid. She's an accountant with the IOM, and she says that in court papers that the company had not delivered the maisonette that she had paid for in January 2019. And apparently she is not the only one. So we have a lot of cases where people have paid for this off-plan idea, and then come time within which the company says your house should be handed over to you, it doesn't happen. Citing High Yield Solutions, for example, invests money from the public in real estate. The real estate developments are sold and part of the proceeds used to pay investors their dues. They have had an issue whereby they've not been able to do this for the last few months. Home Africa is fighting off an insolvency petition filed by EcoBank, which claims the firm is unable to repay a disputed 983.5 million shilling loan. And now this lady, looking at what has happened with Banda Homes, is not the only one. There are quite a number of investors also who have put their money in the off-plan scheme and then have not been able to get their homes after the period. And the question is, so what happens? You have estates, hundreds of homes in one estate. The promise is that you will pay a certain amount, and the house will be finished for you because you're paying up front, right? They finish the house, they hand it over to you. More and more cases of this not being done. Is it mismanagement of funds? Do they find that there's a rising cost in material and resources, so they're not able to finish with the price that they had initially targeted? What is it? But it's becoming more and more worrying because people are putting their hard-earned money here. They are getting loans, mortgages to buy these homes, and they're not being handed over.
Doesn't that really follow closely the tales we keep hearing of people who buy plots that actually don't exist?
Imaginary plots.
Or people who invest in investment schemes that don't really exist.
It's unfortunate that this is now touching on, because a home is like your final investment, right? The big one that you do so that you have somewhere to be later.
Yep.
And then it doesn't exist, it's not finished, what?
A combination of very many things that happen. And unfortunately, when we look at all of them, we lump them into like one similar kind of thing, right? For example, in the case of Home Africa, there's a piece of land is there. The development area is there. What is it that they borrowed the money to do from the bank? What happened to the money? You see, that's one area of, there's a project, you have gone to a financial institution, you have taken a loan, and then now in terms of using the proceeds of this loan to develop the project, something happens in between. And that needs an explanation by itself. There's the other one of, you have taken money from would-be buyers, given you a percentage of what you're saying is the sale price. You should have calculated and known that when I ask you for a deposit of X amount, that money, if I get from 10 or 15 of you, I'd be able to get to a certain level.
Yes.
And by the time you're giving me the second tranche or the third installment or fourth installment, it should help me continue. Now, what happens in between? Is it that you're also caught up with other projects that maybe you've started, you have cash flow management issues? Those are different from somebody selling air and calling yourself something brothers, selling airport land. And you know very well this is not your land. You have stolen, you have gone to the Ministry of Lands, you have faked title deeds, and you're selling something that doesn't belong. Those are different. And unfortunately, when you look at all these things, we all lump them all together and we say these things. Some, it's about corporate management, corporate governance. Others, it's about business and the risks of a business. Others, it's straight, pure conmanship.
You know where the difference comes in and why we merge them and mesh them together is, as you've explained it, if I'm an investor in such a scheme and it is explained to me, I cannot say I'm ignorant.
Yeah.
Because it can happen. In all honesty, something can happen, all right? The land, everything is above board. It could be a contractor who decides to be clever.
Yeah.
And suddenly, you can't deliver what you promised. It's something that can be explained. Is it not the same thing we keep blaming the government for or pointing fingers at the government for? Not taking the time to actually explain,
Take the
communicate.
initiative to explain before things get out of hand.
Yes.
But this is what we're talking about now. This is it. Look, if you link it in with what we spoke about a few minutes ago, when you're talking about development projects and bringing people in so that they're also on the same page as you, hearing from them. We talked before, Sirikali, keeping these projects under wraps, the Secrecy Act, and saying we don't actually need to tell them. Why wait until things go belly up before then you start explaining? Look at somebody who has taken 5.9 million shillings, whether you want to assume that she had it sitting in a bank somewhere or she took a loan. You've told her that if you give 5.9 million shillings, we will do what? We will give you a house. Complete it. Now, I do believe that to a great extent, human beings are reasonable. Even unto the last thread, somebody will hear you out. But if you do not explain what is going on, you will get the backlash. Kenyans, from government, this is where we are. This is what is happening. Let's work together. Stakeholders, people who live along the line where we want to come and put this bridge or this railway. This is why we are doing it. This is how it's going to affect you. What would you like us to do? It does nothing in terms of detriment to say this is where we are. This woman who's given you her everything, her life savings to build this home, and then something goes wrong, which they can, which they do, which things happen. If you open and keep open the lines of communication, you put yourself in a better place. Because right now, you know what it is? You've not explained all this time. This lady is only thinking that Banda Homes is a fraud. So she's gone to court. Whereas, like you're saying, Eric, things could have happened. Corporate management of funds is a big deal, right? Things can go wrong.
In a project, you've
In a
started
project,
somewhere,
you've started-
all in good faith.
Many
but
things can go wrong.
Cost of material could have risen significantly. Agreements that you had with suppliers could have gone wrong. Anything.
your calculations may actually have missed the mark. Maybe you
Absolutely.
wanted, for you to be able to deliver, you needed to have sold a certain threshold, a certain number of.
By a
You
certain
needed
time.
100 people
certain
to
time.
buy.
You
You
need-
needed 100 people to buy and put money up front
Yep.
in 9 months.
Yep.
It didn't happen because these individuals, maybe they ran into financial issues here and there.
Yep.
They couldn't do it. But your promise made to this individual was upon projections that you had previously made. It didn't come through. Just say. And that's what I'm saying. People are actually reasonable to the nth. But if you keep quiet and you're not communicating regularly with them, this is why we have the situations that we have. And I dare say that a lot of things, whether you're looking at a macro level, government, national, talking to its people, whether you're looking at the micro level, individuals now with their supplier, there is nothing that cannot be, I actually believe it, there is nothing that cannot be solved keeping the lines of communication and honesty open. It can. But we see that it doesn't happen. Well, let's keep it secret and try to sort it out before. No. Whether you're dealing with an individual, whether you're dealing with a government, whether you're dealing with corporate offices, whether you're dealing with public service, it's the same thing. It's the same thing. And I think that's a serious problem.
Yeah. It's a serious one. It's all about communication. Now that we're talking about projects and all those things, in Taita Taveta County, there's a scandal brewing. Some piece of land has been set aside for export processing zone in Taita Taveta. 750 acres of that land.
That's a lot of land.
750 acres in Taita Taveta. That's like a plot. Now,
that can't be a plot.
in Taita Taveta, my friend. It's a plot.
750 acres.
Yes.
Because people own
ranches.
Okay.
The land is subject of a row between Mbulia Group Ranch management and Manga community, with each claiming ownership. The county has identified this particular piece of land for an EPZ project. A fortnight ago, an ad hoc committee tabled a report naming the beneficiaries of the land. The report has, however, not been discussed in the assembly. Now, in the county assembly of Taita Taveta, Ngoli Ward MCA Jonas Muganga caused a stir when he accused his colleagues of being the beneficiaries of this EPZ land. Now, how can people be beneficiaries of EPZ land? This is Kenya. The ward rep told the speaker that some MCAs have illegally acquired the land in his Ngoli ward at Manga Triangle along the Nairobi-Mombasa highway. His claims sparked an uproar in the assembly, with a section of MCAs demanding that ad hoc committee report on the land be tabled and made public. Muganga told the charged house that the disputed Manga land was a time bomb if not handled well. MCAs and other land speculators have moved to this area in droves and illegally acquired land at the expense of the EPZ itself and thousands of squatters. The committee report is incomplete and has protected politicians who have illegally benefited, which is now in jeopardy. The minority leader, Ronald Sagurani, said the matter raised by the MCA is sensitive and could not be ignored. Now, you see what is happening here? Government has decided, let us set aside EPZ. Okay? What does that mean? That means that we are attracting investors into Taita Taveta County. We are putting up potential for job opportunities in Taita Taveta. We are also putting up potential for a place where our raw material, whatever is produced in Taita Taveta, can go there for processing, and then we can sell and make.
And Taita Taveta is a county that actually borders Tanzania as well.
Hiyo mambo yote. Government sets aside 750 acres. Then you hear that people with political connections have gone to that area and started grabbing for themselves this land. Even before the ink has dried and the plan is complete. They have already started stealing the land.
You see, by the time somebody is doing that, even a thief goes in, robs, whatever, the assumption is that they're not going to be caught. You don't go into a heist, for example. You know that maybe there will be some ruffle and somebody will try to get a hold of you if they actually find out it's you. But the thing in your mind is that you're going to get away with it, right?
Yeah.
So, as you're saying, before the ink has dried, you're comfortable enough to go and already start grabbing the land because you're aware that you're going to get away with it.
Yep.
That there will be no follow-up. Nobody's going to ask any questions. And by the time
there'll
that
be investigations, there'll be a report. A report will...
They know that that's how it's going to be.
Yep.
So that's why they're able to go ahead with such gumption, because they know nobody is going to follow up to the point whereby I'll actually get in trouble. And should it reach that point, by then you would have done one of two things. You would have disappeared, or you would have sold
off the land, made your money, and moved.
Gone. And then you say, I thought I was acting within my whatever, and then I sold it, but I'm done.
Yeah. And you will sponsor people to come and make noise and say, you know what, you can't kick out squatters from this.
This is now witch hunting, etc., etc.
What they want to do is they are taking away our land and giving it to some foreigners to come and start investing here. What happened to the local people who have been living here?
You turn the conversation onto something else which really doesn't matter, and you take the attention away from the fact that you
stole this particular piece of land which was meant to benefit the people of Taita Taveta County. 28 minutes to 8. Time for a quick break. How are the roads looking like? Why does it feel like it's already a weekend? I'm feeling like it's Saturday morning. Are you feeling like that?
Saturday morning? Right now?
Yeah.
This is what you'd be doing on a Saturday morning?
Like I'm wondering, okay, but I don't even think we should be doing traffic now. I mean, roads should be clear. It's a Saturday, after all. But anyway, you do traffic. Let's see how it looks like. Come on.
87.9 Spice FM, Mombasa. 24/7 around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM.
The youth are the future of our country. And last Saturday on 00 Direct, we highlighted the challenges faced by young leaders in Kenya today and their contribution to democratic leadership and governance. Here are some key points.
My name is Rose Omamu. I'm the General Secretary of Amalgamated Union of Kenya Metal Workers. We represent workers in automotive, rubber products, and battery and tire manufacturing. Being into leadership, it is a journey. It's not a step. So you need to walk the talk for you to get into these positions. You cannot just wake up in the morning because you are young and you want a position. Nobody is going to give it to you on a silver platter. But if you prove to this organization that you are capable, that you are able, that you can make it, they will see the potential in you. And they will, of course, elevate you to that position of leadership. And leadership does not only start at the national level, it starts at the rank and file, at the shop floor. So if you join, for example, a trade union in your place of work, then there are trade union trainings and you participate in those trainings and you are able to get back to your colleagues and disseminate the same information. Make sure that when there are meetings, you are also able to contribute to the leadership that is at the shop floor. Then you start becoming a leader at the shop floor and you will rise to the branch level and finally to the national level. So it also needs patience. But you see, young people do not have that patience. But I want to encourage them to be patient and to engage in trade union activities to make sure that they own their union and have a sense of belonging to their union. Then, of course, through that, they can easily get into leadership. Remember, leadership that we have in trade unions today agitate for young women and men's rights. And we want to promote that so much to make sure that in our organizations we have young people. And let me tell you, we are here in Kenya. The economy is full of young people. In fact, I can say Kenya is a young nation. So if we do not promote young people in leadership, then where are we going? And even when we are in leadership, we need people who, when we get out of the leadership or when we exit leadership, have people who will take over and there will be no gap. And in fact, like for my union, for example, we promote young men and women to come into leadership. One of the youths who is a member of my union has been elected the chairperson for youths in sub-Saharan Africa. So if I did not give him enough skills, enough training, if I did not work with him this journey, he wouldn't reach the level where he can be a youth chair for sub-Saharan African region. So we really want to see young men and women involving into trade union activities and taking leadership positions in their union.
Young leaders, the challenges they face, the opportunities available, and why we need more of them in Kenya today. It's a special 00 Direct Young Leaders series with me, Olivia Otieno, only on SpiceFM.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah!
You're listening to Spice FM. 24/7, around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM.
Gone are the days when hiring should be about hitting the brick wall, because we understand how much it means to have the ideal candidate working for you and your organization. That's why at Standard Jobs website, we offer the complete employer dashboard that lets you interact fully with applicants, lets you track the full hiring process through a qualified specific smart search tool. What's more, we offer a full-on custom branded page that lets your company stand out with your own to choose custom page. So,
cloudy conditions in Nairobi still. We will see highs today of 20 and lows of 12. Chance of rain later, but we're going to keep an eye out for that. Actually, a sprinkle in some parts of the city. Light rain at 12 in Nyeri, highs of 17 and lows of 13. Cloudy conditions at 14 in Nakuru, highs of 22 and lows of 13. 13 will also be the low. Mostly cloudy conditions in Eldoret. Mostly cloudy at 20 in Kisumu, highs of 29 and lows of 18. It's 20 26. That will be recorded as a high in Kakamega, mostly cloudy right now at 21. It's cloudy in Mombasa at 23, highs of 28 and lows of 22. We'll also record highs of 28 in Malindi, where it's cloudy now at 24. Sunny conditions in Kampala, however, at 19, highs of 26. It's sunny at 21 in Tanzania. Dar es Salaam specifically, highs of 30 and lows of 22. Clear conditions in Chile, Johannesburg at 6 this morning, highs of 19 and lows of 5. And it's mostly clear in Lagos at 25 with highs of 30. It'll come down to lows of 25. It's 21 degrees and cloudy in Kinshasa. It'll rise to highs of 32 and come back to lows of 22.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah.
You're listening to Spice FM.
We see some of it building up on Langata Road today. Actually, it looks pretty tight. Getting all the way to the roundabout, going towards Bagathi Way, or then going down Langata Road towards the Nyayo Stadium roundabout. We see quite some traffic there. Also, it's building up at the junction that joins Lusaka Road. To Mombasa Road, getting out towards Bunyala as well. It looks pretty slow, especially at the roundabouts, guys. Jogo Road, all the way from Makadara, then Hamza behind that, through to Landis Road, also moving very slow. In Gong Road, little pockets here and there, but nothing too crazy, especially now. Thika Road, however, all the way from Survey is tight. You get yourself then to the Pangani Underpass and then join further up ahead to Muranga Road. Looks tight as well. Okay, but nothing too crazy as we're looking at it. However, we're seeing some traffic still coming off of Kiambu Road. That's pretty heavy. Outer Ring as well. Need to watch out for that. But we'll keep an eye on things. SpiceFMKE on Twitter. Text on 40127.
102.5 Spice FM, Kisumu. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM.
20 minutes to 8. Kenya's biggest conversation continues. Happy Friday. It's the 30th day of July, 2021. From wherever you are, El Dorado, Nikondani, Vincent Okeri says that. Where's El Dorado?
El Dorado's in Texas.
Okay.
Is that not the city of gold?
El Dorado.
Okay. And also in Kisumu, Vincent Omondi is in Kisumu. So that was Okeri in El Dorado. This other Vincent is in
El Dorado.
El Dorado. And Evans is in Nakuru.
Ndu, you are the individual who knows and understands songs. As we're talking about the situation that is arising, slowly developing and unfolding in Taita Taveta, buying and selling things that don't actually belong to you, a song came to mind.
Mm-hmm.
I Want to Be a Millionaire.
So freaking bad.
You see, in Kenya, that has been outdated. It has been relegated to the past. Kenyans everybody wants to be a billionaire.
Yeah, and instantly so.
Yes.
You know, and you know, if the song would go further and say, I want to be this so badly, but then we see beyond wanting to do it, then you're actually doing whatever it takes, and we're not talking about sticking within the lines of integrity. You will do whatever it takes because that desire to attain this material wealth or secure a livelihood for yourself going into the future, that outlasts, outwits, outstrengthens anything that lies in any kind of morality whatsoever, that you will do whatever you must do to get to this place, to have all these things that you desire, without realizing, another song, that you can't take it with you. You can't take it with you. You can work hard. The sweat of your brow then should be what waters your future. That should be it. Good, honest hard work never killed anybody. But you know what? This thievery, it does. The thievery does eventually catch up. Ready to do whatever you need to do to be able to secure livelihoods, whether that thing that you do is right or wrong, never really comes into the conversation. And I think that's how far we've gotten. It is.
You just do things because, well, to do.
And even if you do, it doesn't matter because you won't catch up with you.
Yeah, you feel that you're protected. You know, you feel that you can get away with it and you can repeat it for as long as you want to do it, and nothing will ever come of it, which is very, very unfortunate in this country. The First Lady yesterday was at Chiromo, and she was helping them celebrate 25 years of what is called the Chiromo Hospital group. They've come up with a new group. This is the Chiromo for psychiatric facility, Chiromo Bustani Level 5 Hospital in Nairobi. One of the directors of this is Dr. Frank Njenga. He's the chairman of the Chiromo Hospital Group.
Mm-hmm.
And during this event, where she went there to help them celebrate, she called for greater national focus on mental illnesses by stakeholders in the health sector. She said mental health should be given the same priority as other medical conditions, noting that with proper attention, mental illnesses are treatable. Too many individuals are being left to deal with these issues on their own, and many face complicating life circumstances like drug and alcohol addiction, confinement, or abandonment. We must do a better job. We must not accept this. Madam First Lady, everything that she says here is true, and it's something that we come back to asking ourselves, so what exactly is the Ministry of Health's plan on the issue of addressing mental health?
I'm sorry.
What is the government's plan on the issue of addressing mental health? We keep talking about it left, right, and center.
I can't, because you know what this is for me? It's you're getting in, you have an intent to go somewhere, right? You get into the vehicle, you put the key in the ignition, you turn it on, and then you just sit there revving. You're not moving. You know the importance of moving. You have fuel in your car. You know where you're supposed to be going, but you just don't move. So whether the First Lady comes and says it, because as it would appear, the First Lady comes and talks about the importance of mental health. All the officials from the Ministry of Health yesterday, as I watched that, were coming out and talking about how important it is. Gave kudos to Dr. Frank Njenga about how he's done such a good job in outlining the path that we should follow. Even if God himself were to come down in manifestation in human form and say, let's move, nothing would be done about it. And it bothers me so much that you have the capacity to do, but you just don't do. I saw an interesting point from somebody today that we've had more deaths from suicide in Kenya in the last month than we have had of COVID, from COVID. Suicide deaths in Kenya are more in this country than COVID, the thing that has been taking us all by storm. More deaths from suicide than COVID in Kenya. And it's been declared a disaster. There's been a task force that has gone around the country. Today, if you go to hospital, in a lot of the hospitals, by the time you're finished with the consultation, there's a piece of paper that they're giving you to kind of rate what your mental state is. What they do with those papers, only God knows. Whether they collate all of them and take them to the Ministry of Health and say, this is what we found, or what you're supposed to do after. I have good mind, if I go to hospital next, to write down all indications that maybe I'm losing it. And I would like to see if somebody would call me back and say, you know what? Maybe we need to have a sit down, because it seems as if all is just eye service and the fulfilling of righteousness. How can we have something that is so detrimental to society, but we're still revving the engine? We're not moving.
Maybe it's
so
an
the
indication.
First Lady came and said something yesterday. Guess what? When she finished talking,
it was speech.
That was it.
Yeah.
That was it. It's done.
President was a health CAS, Dr. Mercy Mwangangi. It's all, maybe it's a sign of mental illness by itself.
That you're not doing anything about this.
You know that thing of knowing, I know I need to get up.
Yeah, but
I know if I get up, I'd be able to go. I'll make myself, fix myself a meal. I'll eat. I'll gain some strength. And
But you don't get up.
But you don't get up.
Why?
Speak to Dr. Frank Njenga, he'll tell you that is mental illness.
It is. They know that then definitely there is a problem.
Yes.
There's a problem. I think about, again, going to hospital, and they said that one of my children has maybe an iron deficiency. And you say, okay, you know what? This could affect his learning. It could affect his well-being. So what do you need to do? Now start to make sure that in his diet, you're putting in more sources of iron, uptake here and there. And then you see after a couple of months, the child is actually doing better and you don't have to go back to hospital. What stops us from taking that? Because it is not you directly involved, so you're not going to do anything about it. Meanwhile, you are in the position that has the capacity to do so. They've given the report. You tasked them to do it. And said, here, this is where we are. It's a year now plus, no?
Yep.
That this report has been sat on.
Yep.
What has been done? Honestly, this is not even attacking anybody. It's not pointing. I'm genuinely asking. The report has been handed over. It sounds very emotive and tear-jerking to talk about that mental health is worse. Every day we read in the papers about, just most recently, somebody killed their children and then took herself to the police station.
Yep.
I've killed my children.
Yep.
And then what do? We lock her up.
Yeah.
There is, and I'm sure, I am very sure, I've not read the report, but I'm sure, people the likes of Frank Njenga and Senator Sylvia Kathanga, who are also on that task force, you cannot tell me that they did not give recommendations in terms of action and implementation on what needs to be done. I refuse to believe that they did not.
Of course, the report has far-reaching recommendations. Recommendation number 1, declare mental illness a national disaster. That means you dedicate resources, both financial, human, and other resources to addressing this particular matter. Then number 2, number 3, number 4, set up the facilities, enhance the facilities, enhance how people can get access, support, and help if they need it. All right? In the long term, increase the number of psychologists and psychiatrists in the country. In the long term, have a bigger level 6 facility that is bigger than Mathari, and then have others in the counties. In the long term, but in the medium term, start addressing it. Those things are in that report.
Accept that it's an issue. Accept even that it's an
They
issue.
are in the report.
But
We have
also-
started with the long term by setting aside a piece of land to build a big health facility, mental health facility.
It doesn't help if you have a big health facility, but you don't have health facilities that support it at, say, the very basic level, say, of a sub-county or of a ward.
Yep.
You have to have it. And you don't necessarily need a trained medical psychiatrist. There are people at a different level who, are trained as counselors. You will have health providers who are professional nurses who are also trained in psychiatry.
Yep.
There are people who are experts in counseling, psychology. There are many, many ways in which mental health can actually be addressed. Someone doesn't have to get to a point where there's something absolutely wrong for you to actually deal with the problem. But it goes back to the same discussion we've had about the curative versus the preventative approach to healthcare. Because if healthcare in its entirety is provided for at a local level, who needs to go to a national hospital?
You don't.
Why?
Why do you even need to go to a county referral hospital?
Have you been to Kenyatta National Hospital at around 6:30, 7 in the morning? People are flocking to hospital with luggage. What does that tell you? That they've come from a different part of the country to come and access healthcare in Nairobi, and they have to stay here. They've come for a checkup. They've come for a review. They've come for something else. They've got to stay here. What does that mean? That where they have come from, it doesn't exist. There's not, that the health is not actually brought to, healthcare is not actually brought to their doorstep. And we're not talking about something that it's a farce. This is the case. This is the case. So if you're dealing with a physiological problem that cannot be handled in your vicinity, close to you, how much more something that is a psychological issue? How much more? I honestly say right now, it cannot. Even the healthcare that we're talking about, for your limbs to be moving and for your body to be functioning properly, that we're not able to achieve. How about that then deals with the inner workings of your mind or your circumstance? How will that be? But you know what? I'm actually not surprised, because a country that will not be focused primarily on the well-being of its citizens, whether you're looking at healthcare, whether you're looking at education, whether you're looking at all these other things that come along with it, the taxes that we're talking about that are burdening people to the bone. If you have a nation that is not looking at the livelihood and the well-being of its people in the tangible, you're talking about things that you can see, how much more the unseen? Whereby the very few that control resources, for example, are not really bothered about that. There is no way they'll be bothered about how your mind works or operates, or if it's in optimum health. So it seems as if, to me, the lines are crisscrossed. The priorities are upside down.
It's like with education, you actually get the impression that those who are mandated with the duty of ensuring that healthcare is provided for all the citizens seem to believe it's a private affair that either the families should take care of or the private sector should take care of.
Yep.
And whatever efforts are made are usually token or they're verbal. If you look at the monies that even the counties allocate to healthcare, it may not be what is desired, but again, I and my leaning towards what I can see, you will be able to see something. Because if you're talking about most counties in this, well, literally every county in this country inherited a healthcare system from the national government. And every county has a headquarter. And these hospitals were at the headquarter. It may have been a district hospital, but it's there. It may have been a provincial hospital, but it's there. And some of them over the years have expanded and have been built. But the tragedy of many of these hospitals is that they have been sustained by donor funding. So when donor funding fizzles out, because it usually does, it's for a season and it's for a purpose, then you suddenly find that the nakedness is exposed. You suddenly ask yourself, goodness gracious me, what on earth is happening?
This is how it is.
Yes, what is exactly going on here? And yet, even with all that, you will still find that there is some healthcare there is some healthcare provision. Now, you ask, if indeed they actually did what they said they would do, how much more then would you see?
So you know what? Sometimes I think and I say, okay, every time we take a stab and saying the government should, the government can, the government ought. But then I say, okay, are we being too hard? Are we being too demanding? And then I say, is it possible then, with what is available, to actually make sure that all of these bases are covered? Is it possible to do it? That you can actually see some movement in a particular direction? And the unfortunate thing is that, yes, you can. Because I want to bring it down to the very basic level, the basic unit of society. And if you look at a family unit and how they operate with what they have, somehow you're able to cover the bases. Somehow. Of course, you'll have cases whereby, things are mismanaged completely. But people are able to get by because they prioritize things and then they're able to apply funds and attention where they should go. Now, elevate that. And you do have a situation where, because Kenya's not poor. Kenya's not poor. The resources, you sent us a document today and we're looking at the list of countries on the continent that actually have these resources. And Kenya makes that list more than once. The funds are available. The expertise and resources are available. Why are we not able to manage things properly? And I'm going to go back to it. It is a leadership issue. It is a leadership issue. It's a leadership problem. And until and unless you have somebody who's going to come in and reform the way things are operating, you will continually have these problems. You're going to keep asking, it's great that you have somebody who speaks like this, but what are you doing about education? What are you doing about healthcare? What are you doing about taxes? It's going to be the question.
And not just doing, the minimalist. It's doing properly so that you can see the results. Because you'll ask many and they'll tell you, yes, this is what we do. This is what we do in education. When it comes to healthcare, this is actually what we have done. This is how we started. This is where we started, how it's going. They'll show you. But in between, they're starting and the going, a lot has not happened that should have been happening. And that's why now the issues will start coming in of, surely, with better management of the resources that we have,
absolutely,
with better management of what God has given us, with better management of what, we are able to raise as a people. When people wake up every day and they go to work and they're able to contribute in whatever way they're doing to society, to the country, we could actually move better. It's like you say, it's a leadership issue. Let's take a break. Let's hear what's in the news. And just to remind you, Olympics has started. The rest was preliminary. The track and field is on. Kenya, we're already moving on into the next area of, steeplechase, 800 meters and the rest. You can catch these on KTN Home. Good morning, 8 a.m.
Spice up your life.
Good morning, this is the Newswire. I'm Leah Ubaga. With the 2022 general elections drawing closer, the Office of the Registrar of Political Parties says it's working towards cleaning party records to ensure that the process is smooth. Political Parties Registrar Anderitu says members who want to leave a party will be allowed to do so through a digital platform. Anderitu has also refuted claims that the registrar shares private data belonging to parties' members with the public.
We make it easier for a person to join or leave a political party. The leaving, therefore, is creating a digital platform where you can actually opt out if you want actually to leave a political party. Kenyans have a right for you to have access to your data. But unfortunately, it's Kenyan. When they have access to the data, then they share it out on their own volition. It's not the registrar or data commissioner or political parties that share the data out there.
The registrar also says they've written to political parties to delete names of over 300 individuals who filed complaints after finding that they are listed in parties they don't belong to.
It's a question of parties just deleting them. Nobody wants to keep members who are dissatisfied to belong to their political party.
Those who are taken coercious, that political parties have agreed that people found themselves in those political parties, and we have all agreed that they'll be sorted.
Households will continue to pay more for gas after Treasury CS Sukuriatani and Petroleum CS John Munyes skipped a meeting to discuss ways of cushioning Kenyans. The duo had been summoned by the Senate Energy Committee to discuss measures to mitigate against the high prices of energy. The prices were occasioned by the introduction of the 16% VAT on the commodity.
From where I sit, Chair, I'll find it very difficult to proceed with this meeting without Treasury.
The reason why we have invited both the ministers is so that then we don't have a ping pong where then somebody will say it's not our responsibility, it's the mandate of the Treasury to do so.
If you want, I'll prepare a comprehensive brief on how far we are at this point in time, and then can be able to present again to this House.
I believe, as you have correctly guided, this is a question best placed and answered by the National Treasury.
Tokyo Olympics athletics events began today as Kenya continues to seek their first 2020 Olympics medal in the 3,000 meters steeplechase. Abraham Kibiwot and Benjamin Keegan dominated their heats, clocking semi-finals qualification times. The 800 meters turned disastrous as experienced Kenyans Eunice Sam and Emily Cherotich failed to qualify for the semi-finals. However, Mary Mora made the cut for the semis, finishing third in heat 4. Later, world champion Helen Obiri will lead the Kenyan contingent in an onslaught in the 500 meters heats alongside Lillian Kasait and Agnes Tirop. That's the Newswire. I'm Leah Ubaga.
102.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
Okay, so we're looking at some heavy traffic on Mombasa Road today, headed in and outbound, actually. Industrial area seems to be clogging up also. Lunga Lunga, as you're trying to get towards the city, and also now trying to join through to Mombasa Road. Okay, it doesn't look too bad on Jogo Road anymore. Where it still is continuing to clog up is Langata Road, and we're also seeing some traffic coming in from Chiromo, the Westlands area, and also Pangani as you come in on the Thika Superhighway. So in and out, but it's not too crazy. Let's look west in a short while. When we come back, see what's happening out of the city. We know that folks might be traveling, so we'll look at that in a bit. SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Let us know what it looks like in case anything does get sticky. Talk to us on text 40127.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Kenya's biggest conversation into the third hour. We're here until 10 this morning, and every weekday, Monday to Friday, on Spice FM around the country, around the world, on Spice FM KE, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and our website www.spicefm.co.ke. Michael George says, you guys have been in shags and your frequency seems to be doing not so well. Your frequency in Gemiala is what again? Kisumu frequency is 102.5. It should be able to catch there.
It should.
Michael. Jaribu 102.5. City, today's proverb.
The jungle is stronger than the elephant.
The jungle is stronger than the elephant.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Sawa, let the jungle swallow his elephant. Our rivers are own. There was a story that has been doing the rounds on social media this past week, right? It's a story that was aired on NBC, and then it's also on social media. It's about entrepreneurship in Kenya. I'm just choosing to call it that way. Mm-hmm. The story is saying how Kenyans are helping students in some American colleges and universities to cheat in their assignments and exams. And this is not the first time that a story such as this is actually being highlighted about what is happening in terms of, Kenyans being able to access online jobs and then being able to earn a living doing whatever kind of online writing and doing jobs for people who are seeking services across the globe. What is, however, a bit discomforting for me with that story is that it was painting it as if Kenyans who are here are helping people cheat, and so they're part of a criminal network.
Actually, the story is Kenyans are cheats and they're criminals.
Yes. And that Americans are their victims.
They just happen to be, receiving on the receiving end of this, cheating game, regardless of the fact that, they're receiving the assignments and handing them in. Because that's what it is. The majority of these individuals receive this work completed and they're handing it in, whether it is the an undergraduate course, a master's course, or a PhD course.
But what I
they're
want to
receiving the
ask
work
is-
completed, and they're just basically handing it in.
So, what part of this whole process is considered fraudulent? Is it everything that is done that is considered fraudulent?
Is it fraudulent?
Well, for it to be fraudulent, there's the need to understand what specifically are we talking about. Are they being helped to write their term papers?
Yes.
Are they being assisted to write their thesis?
Yes.
What are they being assisted to do?
All of this, because if you look at the platforms upon which folks do this work, you will find that they come in different categories. It's an assignment in physics, for example, needs to be completed, and then you have somebody complete the assignment, they hand it in, they're paid for it, boom. Now, however they choose to hand it in to their professor or teacher on the other end is really not your business, because you're done with the assignment. But you will find that they're in different categories. It's an assignment, it's a term paper, it is a thesis, as you say, it's chapter 1 for submission kind of thing. But they are very specific about the kind of education that they want you, the writer, to have. That you must be versed in things mathematics, you must be versed in things history, and you then also must be versed in referencing. Now, it cannot be your normal Cambridge referencing, it must be your AA referencing or your AH referencing kind of thing. So you need to know this, because they already know what the assignment is, and they've told you, if it is not along these lines, either I will not pay you, or, that kind of thing. So they're very, very specific.
So essentially they're seeking expert consultancies.
Yes, and it has to be perfect, because either that's why I have a problem with them saying that Kenyans or whomever else is doing the assignment are the ones who are being fraudulent. Because this individual, number one, either does not have the time to do this assignment because they're working, or they're too lazy to get off their butts and sit in front in a desk in a library and do the work, or they have, an insane amount of money that they're willing to pay for somebody else to do it, so they don't have to bother to think, but they want the certificate at the end of the day. That's it. The person on this other end is filling a gap.
Service delivery.
Is delivering a service. Is doing the legwork. So you, who has decided to employ the services of this other individual, you're actually not the one who did the work. So who are you going to ask is to be held to blame? It is you. It's you.
You see, the basis on which this becomes fraudulent is the understanding in academia that for you to get whatever certificate you want, the work must be original and it must be by you.
By you, yes.
But there's also the understanding that you will consult. But from what I have read and what I hear, it is being said this isn't consultancy. Somebody else is doing the work. And you're presenting it as your own.
Yes, you're not getting
Therein lies the issue.
That is it.
So it's not seeking an opinion.
You're not getting opinions from this individual the way I can come and sit and have an interview with you, and then I write down the notes from what we've discussed, and then I go after that, and then I now put together the work with all this information that I have collated, right? But this is not the case. As it's done in these projects, you tell me this is the question. Explain to us why Raila quit NASA. Using references, using historical references, using current blah, 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 use AHA referencing. That's it. So now you ask somebody who is versed in politics or international politics and public service, sitting somewhere in Kenya, that is the kind of person I want and who understands referencing. You do the entire assignment with all the dots, all the I's dotted and all the T's crossed, and you hand it over completed. That's what we're talking about. It's not consultation.
Let's broaden this discussion, all right? And look at similar arrangements on a larger scale. Let's talk about the field of development, all right? You get assistance from an agency, a foreign agency, to put up, say, an institution, all right? They put up the money, they bring the expertise, they help you put it up. But at the end of the day, it is your building, not theirs. Because it's on your land. What they've done is give you the money, the expertise, but the building is yours. Now, the rules governing development and the assistance therein are clear, and there's never really any doubt that once they've helped you put it up, it belongs to anybody. It's theirs. I mean, it's yours. But unfortunately, in academia, we have a bit of a problem here. You know, the one resource that Kenya has in abundance, Remember, many countries talk about foreign exchange earning through some product that they have, through some natural resource that they have, minerals, etc. Kenya's main mineral source right now that we export is called human resource.
Yes.
And the returns speak for itself. Now, this story again takes it a step further, and it tells us that indeed that human resource is indeed a resource, because it wouldn't be a story if it was just one person who was seeking assistance. It becomes a story when whoever's written has done a little homework and have figured that it's something almost akin to an industry. But you know something? We did not pioneer this.
No, we didn't. It has been done elsewhere, but at the same time, this is something that we ought to, first of all, to recognize. So, one, the story as it was aired by CBS and the journalists that came to do it, and the slant that it was given, gives it a negative connotation. Although at the same time, they agree that it's not illegal in all states in America. There are some states that would allow it. However, it's not just for purposes of writing an exam on behalf of somebody else that Kenyans are doing this. Kenyans are actually doing a lot of digital online work today, assisting with research. So somebody has a research project and they're doing, and they seek, a lot of background information, and you just post it on this portal, and somebody gets the brief, and they go ahead and do what they're supposed to do. There's a lot of other work that's being done, online writing. So you want to put content on a digital platform for yourself, and you get somebody and you just post it, and a Kenyan is able to actually take time, spare a moment, go ahead and do all of the background research, and they give you the information. Others, imagine today's CT, you want to, get into thought leadership on everything that you know about, and you want to post it on your website, ct.com. You want to have regular articles that you're writing. But you don't have the time to sit down and just compose an entire article. So what you do is you walk around with your recorder, and you're recording your thoughts, you're saying your thoughts, you're recording them, and then you post it online. A Kenyan somewhere goes, downloads that audio, listens to what you've said, and they compose an article. And they give it to you. And you're like, yes, this is exactly what I was saying, and this is what I meant, and you put it on air. These are the jobs that are being done by very many Kenyans today. And not only that, in fact, it's even gone into formal. Alex Chamwada, the journalist who runs Chams Media now, and he does stories on daring abroad and all. 2 weeks ago or so, he was in Turkana County. There in Turkana County, he came back with a story of people who are doing IT jobs in Turkana County. Okay? So it's a facility set up in Turkana. Guys have come in, and they have internet connection, and they have computers. Jobs are posted. Somebody wants a website developed. Somebody wants an app developed. Somebody wants some job that can be done on digital. Those guys in Turkana receive the job, they receive the brief, they do the job, they do it. And in fact, we were saying this is daring abroad from right here. Because these are doing legitimate jobs. You're a company, you're seeking that. You actually are doing it. There's another company right down the road here at the Samia Business Park. It's called Summer. It used to be called Summer Source. Summer Source was started by a young lady who unfortunately died 2 years ago. And it basically is looking at this big tech and Fortune 500 companies that are going into big data. So you break down a project. Let's say Google is thinking of how, in fact, some of the projects that they've done, they don't say exactly which one it is, but Google, say, is working on this driverless car. Okay? For this car to be driverless, this is artificial intelligence. The car will need to know that this is a stretch of road, this is a corner, this is a traffic light, this is a zebra crossing, this is a bump, this is this and the other. So what do? All that information is captured, and then it's broken down into small bits. Kenyans And Summer Source now targets Kenyans who live in Kibra, in Mathare, and such other low-income areas are employed at Summer Source. They don't know what they're doing, but they're annotating. So information is broken down. You're just supposed to key in. Input data, input data, input data, input data. It goes back up. When it gets back to the client, it's combined. It becomes a whole information piece. And that is what is fed into this vehicle to know this is Mombasa Road. And at this point, this is Standard Group to the left. And this is what's happening. That is being done by Kenyans here. We have the opportunities to actually do a lot, and we are doing a lot as Kenyans. But if the story is told from this slant of Kenyans are cheating with American universities.
No, Kenyans are cheats.
Kenyans are cheats. That's a negative side of things.
You know what is of interest? This business is openly advertised. People offer these services in this country openly. It's not some dark web you need to go to be able to understand. And they even tell you, thesis writing, data collection. They outline it for you and they tell you this is what they offer. Okay? Now, I understand the rigors of academia and the requirements, but you know, the odd thing about academia, it also evolves. For instance, once upon a time, just looking at courses that are offered, if you were female, there are certain courses that they would discourage you from. In a time before that, you simply wouldn't be able to do it even if you applied. But you only need to look at the new courses that people keep coming up with to tell you how academia also changes and how it is that academia actually looks for marrying what it is that academia stands for and the real world. Because a lot of academia is theoretical. This accumulation of this knowledge amassed over a period of time and you learning, and then you get more papers when you now input into that store of knowledge with an idea that somebody else hasn't come up with. And then when you come up and do a lot more work and you come up with yet another idea that you can build on that again is new and fresh and a lot more research is involved, you get yet another qualification. But if you observe, academia also is beginning to recognize that work done over a period of time, cumulatively, can equal a certain qualification, what I'm calling a paper qualification. They're also realizing and understanding, now this is now where reality meets with academia, that somebody with the experience or the work experience or the lived experience and the value that they bring in cannot necessarily be discounted. It has to be balanced. And there are very many places where it is preferred. Now, what am I saying? I'm saying academia is important. But I'm also saying lived experience in the absence of the rigors of academia also important. Now, you balance the two. If you recall the advent of fake news and the reports that it emanated from the Baltic states or some of those states that are formerly of the Russian, the USSR.
Yes.
How did it come about that countries were now being associated with this? Because, and by the way, they were being paid to manufacture and produce what we now call fake news. There was a market for it. And they seem to have found a niche and they were good at it. It's something they did well. Now, if somebody calls that criminal, I would argue, because these are people just producing things which are not true. Consistently. But here, I'm juxtaposing into the situation where somebody looks for assistance and says, look, this is what I want done, and this is how I want you to assist me. Let me tell you why I'm arguing this way. I'm looking at the process of proposal writing and what it takes. You come across a proposal, say, for a research grant. There'll be names featuring on it. Yes, those are the principal investigators, maybe the co-investigators. But the number of people who are involved in bringing that thing together,
a
lot more than
colony
that.
of people.
It's collaborative work.
Yes. you'll find somebody whose area of expertise in this, they write their bit. Somebody else writes a bit. And you know the person who puts it together, that's a different person. Because that's the area of expertise. They know how to put all these things together. Again, in that field of grant writing, one of the things that is done by people who are seeking funding, you will look for somebody who has knowledge of what the donor would require. Sometimes it's somebody who worked for that donor at some point, somebody who has association. They know. Now, somebody could call it insider trading if we're talking about business. But no, they have knowledge. Let's look at this same sort of business and look at an industry in the US, influence peddling, called lobbying. From a Kenyan perspective, as I look at it, they've legalized bribery. But that's what they've done. Because you'll have this person who wants to represent Big Pharma. So this committee that deals with such issues and legislation, they make sure that's the person who goes, and there will be some politician, a senator, a Congress individual, whose vote is important. They'll contribute to their campaign. Legal, you're allowed to contribute. They will help put up something in the area he comes from. As a Kenyan, bribery.
Yeah.
But
it's formalized.
Because you formalize it, it is accepted. Yes. So what are we talking about? An actual misdeed or a small detail, as you correctly put it, of formalizing a process that clearly there is the demand and there is the supply.
And it's clearly accepted, because you can't tell me that those who receive these assignments from these students would not have an idea that, okay, it's possible that somebody else put this work together, but at the end of the day, what you wanted to see if it was presented in a manner that would be acceptable for marking, right?
Yeah.
So they also know that this happens. It's the same way that we talk about, look, here, just look at these two scenarios. When people here go to get a passport, and you don't get service as quickly as you'd like. Often, what do? You know a guy who you're able to, who somebody throws a few. You talk to nicely. You get it. In other countries, you know what it's called? It's called speed service. That you can get your document if you pay a little bit extra.
Yeah.
You can get it quicker. Is there a magnificent difference between these two things? No.
Nope. It's
but
just
on
that
this
one,
side, it's not formalized.
One is
not,
formal, the other one
is not.
No, in this country, these visa providing agencies, they formalized it. If you want your visa quick, sharp, and don't want these long queues, there's a place you pay a little more money on your right. And the thing, you get personal service, and that thing is speeded up.
Yeah. I think the bottom line of this whole conversation is there are very many young and old Kenyans who are actually doing a lot of this online work.
Yes.
Okay? And it's about time that we all recognize that they are doing a lot of online work and they're earning legitimately from this. There are people who they are up all night, working from home. All they need is a stable internet connection and a good working machine, and that's what their business is. This conversation did not just start the other day. In fact, at some point, around 18 years ago or 17 years ago, Muthui was the CS, was the Minister for Information. Dr. Bitang Ndemo was the PS for Information. That's the time when Kenya's communication industry was basically just bursting. It's the time when we were seeing the two mobile telephone providers, and then we were seeing others, and then we saw the landing of fiber optic at Kenya's coast. Seacom, Easy, and Teams. And what the minister and his PS were talking about is how can we position Kenya, because of our unique geographical location, how can we position Kenya to be the global hub for BPO, business process outsourcing? You want call centers? We speak good English. We have a very well-educated workforce. People can sit at a call center and they'll do the job that is done by call centers in India, for example, for Europe, for America. You want other processes that can be, left out. It's not your core, but it's something that you require. It can be done by a Kenyan sitting in Kenya. And that's the whole point of even coming up with the Konza Technopolis, so that then you can have a place where BPOs can set up, the private sector can set up BPOs. We saw BPOs being established in this country, Kina Kencol and others, right? ICT Hub, the late Noshad Mirali, when he was starting this Samia ICT place, it was because this is the direction that the government was taking. Let's encourage the setting up of BPOs. So set up, private sector, set up. Now here we are today. That momentum seems to have stalled, such that what we are seeing is not a way in which Kenyans are actually getting into formal places like the one I'm talking about in Turkana, where Kenyans are sitting at a place and they're basically doing BPO work. We are not seeing this happening in Konza. We are not seeing a lot of it happening in Nairobi or any other part, because it can be anywhere in the country. We are not seeing a lot of that happening. And this is an effort that we should be giving to. If we recognized that we have thousands of Kenyans who are already doing this, that we have huge potential for foreign exchange by Kenyans working in Kenya, earning in dollars.
Why not?
We could actually just go far.
Because the taint that
it's not about cheating exams. No. It's actually about offering a service. And there are many who are not doing anything that's close to cheating.
At all. Because look, and why is it that, and on the flip side of it, you have countries like, we talk about countries like Hungary, for example, that their largest export is education. Why can't it be that is something that you craft around what you see is working and working very well?
Yeah.
That Kenyans are able to build a livelihood around something like this. Use it. If you ask me, absolutely. Take it and use it. There's so many things that you can chalk it up to. You can chalk it up to a foreign investment earner. You can chalk it up to exporting expertise of the Kenyan people. There are so many things that you can take, formalize, and make it something that actually contributes to the general outlook of your country. You can do it. And take this negative image that is painted on this thing and turn it around. Take it and flip it. How many things do we see in the West, for example, that started out as horrendous PR moves, that they were able to take, flip it, and it's something that you actually look at and you say, hold on a minute, this is fantastic.
Yep.
There are thousands of examples of things like that. So why not? Can we not be at the point where you say, take it and use it, take the good from it and use it?
There are very many positives out of this. The story has a very negative and bad slant, but we and our government and all of us need to take up that story and say, no, what we are doing is we are a BPO hub for the world. We are offering services from this country to the rest of the world. In fact, if you haven't heard about us, please.
We can also help you.
Talk to us.
Here is
we
our
can sort you
proposal.
out.
We can actually help.
We can sort you out. It's 8:30. Let's take a break, see how the roads are looking like at this time. It's peak traffic hour. And then we come back and continue the conversations.
"24/7 around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM.
Hello.
Halo, umesikia?
Nimesikia nini?
Hujasikia habari? Hebu acha nikuambie. Kile kimetokea.
Hello? Hello? Hello?
Don't wait for hearsay. Dial *550*1# to read the Standard e-paper from the convenience of your mobile phone for only 20 shillings from your telecom line, and stay up to date for a reliable source with over 100 years of experience with no additional data charges.
"24/7 around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM.
The name is NCBA, and the numbers that matter to you matter to us. Get your NCBA asset finance loan approved in just 24 hours, as well as your car insurance, and start counting the journeys with your loved ones. NCBA Bank. Go for it. NCBA Bank is regulated by the Central Bank of Kenya.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise.
You're listening to...
All right, it's 15 degrees in Nairobi this morning, highs of 20 and lows of 12. Light rain continues in certain parts of the city. It's also raining in Nyeri at 13, highs of 17 today. 22 will be the high in a cloudy Nakuru to come down to lows of 13. 13 will be the low in Eldoret. It's mostly cloudy at 15, and 21 is what it's reading in Kisumu at the moment. It'll go to highs of 29 and lows of 18. Cloudy conditions in Kakamega at 21. Highs of 26 and lows of 16. 22 will be the low in Mombasa, where it's raining at 24. It'll go to highs of 28. Cloudy conditions in Malindi at 25. Highs of 28. 26 will be the high in partly sunny Kampala, coming down to lows of 19. We're looking at mostly sunny conditions in Dar es Salaam and going to highs of 30. It'll come down to lows of 22. Sunny conditions at 6 in Joburg, highs of 19 and lows of 5. 30 will be the high in Lagos, where it's mostly clear, at 25. And partly sunny conditions in Kinshasa at 22. That'll be the low for today, going to highs of 32.
Have you seen them? Am I like?
Yes, it's a very nice outfit, I must say. Good
Thank
job.
you. Asante sana.
The compliment is well received.
Good morning and thank you. Everyone in Wasingishu was asking me what channel is SpiceFM.
96.7. Tell them that, right?
Yes, now they know.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Pleasure to have
What
you.
a beautiful studio, my friend.
I've been to other radio stations, but I've never seen anything like this.
Thank you, and it's very nice to be in a modern studio. Absolutely brilliant.
And I have to say, it's a very cool ambiance here in your radio room. Just for our listeners, I think it is below zero in this room here. Very Swiss temperatures.
All right, so we're still in traffic hour right now, and so we're still seeing hot and heavy on Mombasa Road, especially around that Kamanas going towards Syokimau, but it will continue for some time now. Okay, so Imara Daima, that area is quite heavy. We're looking at traffic on Gong Road as you get to the roundabout at the City Mortuary. Also looking at traffic coming out of Westlands, quite some this morning. Survey through to Muthaiga, that is moving along very slowly today. As you get to the Pangani underpass, it's going to take you some time to get out of that one. James Gishuru, not looking too bad, stepping away as you then join Waiaki Way and then connect to the Red Hill Link Road. Shouldn't be too bad for you to get to the city. All in all, traffic doesn't look too terrible today. Hopefully it stays that way for most of Friday. SpiceFM KE on Twitter. That's how you get in touch. Let us know what it looks like in your neck of the woods. Text as well on 40127.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right.
Yes,
94.4 Spice
This is
FM.
Kenya's biggest conversation, the Situation Room on Spice FM and online, SpiceFM KE, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, www.spicefm.co.ke. In the room is Eric Latif, Nduoko, and CT Muga. And like we were saying, our Olympics have started. The rest was preliminaries. Unfortunately, our volleyball team did not do so well. Our rugby team did not do so well. The Mashuja, our boxing guys did not do so well. But now here's our chance. It's our turn to eat. This morning, a couple of heats have taken place. There was 3,000 meter steeplechase, where we have two guys who've qualified into the next round. We have 800 meters. Mary Mora has actually also qualified to go to the semis. We had long jump. We'll get to hear what happened in that. Standard Group sports editor Robin Toskin is among those journalists who are following this live in Japan, and he joins us now. Robin, what is it for you? Is it good afternoon?
Yes, how are you, Latif?
Very well.
It's good afternoon here. It's heading to evening session. It's around 2:57 p.m. here in Tokyo, and I'm sitting here in the media zone waiting for the next session to begin.
Very good. So we had a couple of events that we participated in this today. You can tell us about that.
Yes, it started very early in the morning. We had a high jump. We had Matthew Sawe going into action. Remember, high jump is not one of those events that we participated in, but of course Matthew Sawe qualifying for the Olympics, which is really a big deal. But he came in here, found the going really tough. He jumped only 2.17 meters, and it was not enough to take him to the next round. That qualifying session won by the former world champion, that is Muthui Bashim from Qatar. So that's where you are. Matthew Sawe is out of the Olympics, and up next came the 800 meters, where we had athletes like Mary Mora competing. Mora, fortunately, is the only Kenyan to have made it to the semi-finals after coming in third in her heat. That heat won by Jamaican Gule, and therefore it means that we only have Mary Mora who ran 2 minutes and 1 second. Unisum, the Emily Tway, unfortunately have bowed out of the Olympics. They put up really not a good show here. It was really difficult for them. Now, as we speak, only one Kenyan in 800 meters through to the semis.
Let me just play that clip of Mary Mora and her qualifying run, and this is what happened earlier today.
Venye nimekimbia race haijakuwa mbaya, nilikuwa nimejipanga na nilikuwa naomba sana nikimbie vizuri ili nikuwe mmoja wao kuingia katika semis. Nimetrain vizuri na nimekuwa mmoja wao kuingia semis. Nirudi nijipange vizuri, nirelax, nipumzike. Then ndio ningoje kesho nikuje pia nikompiti niona kama anaweza kuwa mmoja wao katika finali. Nitang'ang'ana yangu yote ili nikuwe mmoja wao katika semis. That's what I promised the Kenyans. Hapo naweza sema unajua dependa venye mmekimbia. Sijaangalia hizo iti zingine venye wamekimbia na sijajua time yao venye ilikuwa. Lakini kwa iti yangu naweza sema venye tumekimbia haikuwa competitive sana, hata kama ilikuwa na watu wa like 157 watu watatu, then 158, 159, hapo nikiwa mmoja wao. Nilikuwa naogopa lakini nimejipata tu kwa semis, ni kwa neema ya Mungu tu. Nakumbuka 2019 tukiwa Doha, nilikuwa nashiriki kwa mita 400. Tente mwenye nilifika semis nikapewa line 9. Yaani nilianza kuona na kama nimerose hope. Juu kuna ile kitu yenye utasoea. So nikiwa huko line 9 nafikiria wenye wako nyuma ya ni kama mimi ni pacemaker kwao, juu walikuja wote wakinipita. So nikaamua tu once na nikaenda mita 800. Nimeendelea na mazoezi yangu na naona si mbaya, inanipeleka mzuri.
Well, that was Mary. She was, of course, speaking after qualifying and getting into the semi-finals. She says, it's like she was surprised to qualify.
Yes, because that was really a tough race for her, and the fact that she finished third, tells you a lot about the competition at this level. And I think she was surprised coming after somebody like Unisum had been beaten, squarely, and Emily Tway also coming in, not performing so well. So that should really be one thing that that has surprised Mora, because if you see one of your toughest or one of the persons you look up to, has been vanquished, then you really feel that you've done your bit. And I think it's really turning out to be a good show for Mora, but we hope that the semi-finals she should be able to qualify for the finals. It's really tough here because again the conditions very hot here, very warm, and it's now down to the athletes to see how their bodies react to the conditions here.
What happened to Unisum? Did you manage to speak to her after the race?
Yes, she finished the race. She came through to the mixed zone, but she was not in the mood to talk to us. And in fact, the head of media liaison from Kenya, that is Elias Makori, has said that he will protest officially to Team Kenya because Unisum is the captain of the team. Remember, after Julius Yego resigned as the captain of Team Kenya, the honors now went to Unisum. So we expected better of her, that in the mixed zone, that she should have been able to talk to us and maybe encourage people like Mora, who was qualified for the semi-finals, but then she just passed by and waved at us. She didn't want to talk. But of course, we understand the disappointment. He's a big-time athlete, so maybe finishing number 6 is not such a good performance she had hoped for. So as an athlete, of course, you'd understand there's that frustration, but then as a Team Kenya captain, we expected more from her.
Toscan, even as you say that, then I'm trying to think about the morale of athletes right now going into a really heavy weekend in terms of competition, having some qualified for some, you say 800, some big races coming in at other events that are going to need, if anything, a really strong psychological base. And if we're seeing that maybe some morale has dropped, what does it seem like going into the weekend for the other athletes who will be performing? Do you feel that they would be ready mentally to face this, even with some big drops from other disciplines earlier in the week?
As you rightly put it, we really expect them, to pick themselves up. Remember, the first, events, volleyball, rugby, men and women, Kenyans have not performed really well, and the morale, as you say, is really down. So we had expected that maybe the athletics would raise their spirits up, but then after Unisum, exited, Emily Tue exited, I'm very sure that the athletes are beginning to question themselves. I had also gone to watch the Kenyan game. There is rugby, the Kenyan Rugby Lionesses. They were up against Great Britain, and they were beaten square by Great Britain by 29 points to 0. So I talked to the team captain, that is Philadelphia Orlando, and one of the things she said is that their morale is really down, and it has been even worsened by the fact that Waziri, Madam Ambassador Amina Mohammed, has had to come back to Kenya to attend to the family tragedy where she lost her husband, and the players are saying that Waziri was always out there, encouraging them despite all those poor performances. She has always been up there telling them, well, you can always speak up to yourselves. But now they are feeling that they don't have their mother back here who's been encouraging them. So we as journalists, we maybe will have to wait for the team officials, the chef de mission, that is Waithaka Kioni, to talk to us and maybe let us know what is happening in the camp. Are they encouraging the athletes, to pick themselves up from here? Remember, the steeplechase, 3,000 meter steeplechase hasn't gone again according to plan. But of course, 2 athletes through to the semi-finals. And the fact that other countries are really closing in, they are clawing into the Kenya's, territory. That has rattled Team Kenya camp.
Go ahead. Robin, I need to ask this question. In your estimate, do you think that the Kenyans actually prepared adequately for the Olympics?
Pardon?
Do you think our teams adequately prepared for the Olympics?
Adequately, that can be debated. Of course, we have the excuse of coronavirus, having affected the preparation and all that. But you have to give it to the athletes that most of them actually got the qualifying times for these Olympics. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been here. So in terms of preparation, that for me is a big issue. For example, now the rugby team, Lionesses, they came in here. 6 of them were quarantined, and they have been told they are not going to mix with the rest, or they were not to mix with the rest of the players. So that actually affected their performance, their interaction, and their team training. So, well, I would say the preparation was not 100%. Maybe I'll put it at 80%.
It's been a difficult one. like you said earlier as well, the 3,000 meters steeplechase did not go according to plan. We have two Kenyans who qualified, and it's Benjamin Kigen and Abraham Kibiwot. Let me first of all play a clip by Abraham Kibiwot after his hit, and hear what he says, and then we can discuss that.
Hii mbio ya steeplechase iko na pressure sana. Kwa si mbio ni ya Kenya, but tuko sawa, tumejiandaa vizuri. Kwa hit yangu nilikuwa tu nakimbia kuqualify kwenda final, but final tutakuwa tutakimbia vizuri. Ya naona final iko na maneno mingi. Sasa itabidi tu tungangane. But naona vile tumekimbia hit, tuko sawa. Tutakuja kubanga vile tutapiga nao kwa final. But tulikuwa tumetrain pamoja, tuko sawa kabisa.
And then this is what Benjamin Kigen also said after qualifying for the final.
Mpango yangu ilikuwa ni qualify, angalau niweze kukimbia finali. Semis inakuwa ngumu. And that is why nilikuwa na fight niingie top 3 to qualification ni 1-3. Obui ni hao watatu wamequalify. So hatuwezi jua hiyo hit nyingine watakimbiaje. Obui kama hit yetu itakuwa chini, pato niyo kwa ile bracket ya finali. So lengo langu tu ilikuwa ni kutaka kuingia finali. Weta ya leo ilikuwa choto kidogo. Ilikuwa choto kidogo. Kulikuwa na msukumano ambapo ilikuwa changamoto, hata mimi nimekanyangwa mguu, naona inatoa damu sana. So lakini haijanifanya nitoke nje. Lazima ni fight. Imeniumiza, lakini hali unavumilia. Unajua hii ni kama vita. So huwezi sema tu mekanyangwa unatoka nje. Lazima ufight mpaka mwisho. Leo ukimalizia nguvu kwa semis, hautakimbia final mzuri. Saidi ukimbia na akili.
All right. So that's Benjamin Kibiwot. Abraham Kibiwot and Benjamin Kigen. They got in there, and then others did not qualify. Who are these that didn't qualify?
Yes, that should really be tough for Kenyans, but I've spoken to some of the journalists here, and they are saying that, Abraham Kibiwot is looking good. Of course, he won his heat in 8 minutes and 12 seconds, 0.25. So they're saying, it wasn't a fast race, but then he's looking well. But the Ethiopians are kind of feeling that they have a chance here against the Kenyans, because one of the toughest opponents the Ethiopians have faced is one Conseslus Kipruto, the defending Olympic champion. But he's an Olympic champion, but he's not here. He did not qualify because he did not make it at Kasarani. So it's the young guy is coming through. Somebody like Leonard Babe, who did not make it because he finished number 5. So that alone is beginning to send some shock to the camp. So we just hope that Benjamin Kigen, who finished the 3rd in his heat, that was won by the Ethiopian Girma Lamecha, who put in the fastest time, they should be able to pick themselves up and defend Kenya stuff. Remember, since that event, that 3,000 meters steeplechase was introduced at the Olympics, no other country has ever won it. It's been a Kenyan event, but then the rest of the world is closing the gap.
Toscan, even as you say closing the gap, in previous competitions, it has always been that the rest of the world is actually very afraid or really cautious or training to their optimum so that they can essentially come and face Kenya in some of these races. From what you're saying, has that attitude changed? Is there more confidence when approaching these races, regardless of the fact that they're Kenyans competing in them? Or is still that reverence still paid to the athletes in some of these races?
Yeah, I spoke with Benjamin Kigen, and he sounded really confident. He said that he understands the job at hand, but he said that he will speak on the track, and he finished 3rd today. But we hope that he'll pick himself up. Now, when we spoke to the other athletes, they are saying that they are using a lot of science. They are using a lot of new methods in coaching to be able to close that gap on Kenyans, and they know that it pays, to win such races, especially in Diamond League where it's paid. Of course, at the Olympics you are not paid anything. So they are beginning to believe that they can catch up with Kenyans. And the unfortunate thing is that Kenyans are beginning to doubt themselves. And once you doubt yourself, then maybe it gives a chance to the others, to come at you. And we've seen that, and you can see the gusto with which the Ethiopians are running, taking on Kenyans here. and that should tell us that something is giving in. But we hope that the two, Abraham Kibiwott and Benjamin Kige, should be able to defend Kenya's turf.
Actually, Robin, that's the reason why I asked about preparedness. You see, there is a physical preparedness where you train, you run, but there's the whole package of preparedness. Support for from the government, not just because you have an Olympics around the corner, but simply to nurture our athletes so that they know that their backs are covered, that what they're doing on behalf of the other citizens of this country is something that is valued. This is really what I was asking. Is it something that we actually do to our athletes? Do we really make them feel that they are supported fully? I mean, back home, they're supported fully. But then again, whenever something goes wrong and you look at the Twitter conversations, very discouraging sometimes. And it's like an understanding, the understanding that the fact that we got there in itself is an achievement. But the other things that happen and the other things that we see happening to the other athletes whom we actually compete with, do our athletes get the same treatment?
It's a big conversation, like you say, but then the most important thing that should be coming out now is the government support. We've seen the government really supported this team, especially the one in Tokyo, but that is in terms of logistics and all that. We've seen them, the government, support them to go out there and compete to qualify for the Olympics. But now what remains to be seen is the developmental part of it, that these players should be supported right from an early age to be able to perform. I watched the rugby team, the volleyball team, and you could tell that there's some aspect that is missing, that of early development. You look at the way the rugby players, handle the ball, or even volleyballers receiving, balls, and you get the feeling that they are not polished, but then they have that desire, they have that drive, but that is not enough, because now things like science has come into play. You need always, your team to be backed up by science, which actually has a financial dynamic to it. Look at teams like the British team. They always have the psychologist in that team. They have a physiotherapist. They have guys, all manner of people there to support that team. So it's a whole big conversation that I want to believe that the Kenyan government, and especially the sports ministry, which at the moment I would put my neck on the chopping board, that they have begun, to wake up to some realities. The fact that they're enabling athletes to go out there and compete, that tells you that they've got the willingness. So it's a conversation that Kenyans must have, drive forward, ensure that the players are developed at an early age and backed up with the scientific knowledge to be able to perform at the highest level.
I think also for a lot of teams and even countries that do well, they in as much as they're present in the current games, they're already thinking about the next games, the next competition. Do you think now, from what we've seen now, some experiences which are probably different from previous competition for Kenya, do you think then, with some of the things that you've said now, that we will then see an improved stance now coming into the next competition, which in this case would be the World Championships before the next Olympics and things like that? Would we see an improvement in some of these factors you've mentioned?
Yeah, I want to believe that the ministry is alive to those challenges, and that they will work with the federations to ensure that the players are developed towards, the upcoming events. Remember, Kenya is hosting the World Under-20 Athletics Championship. That is from August 17th to 22nd. Now, those are players aged 20 and below. Most of them are 19. And the next Olympics is 2024 in Paris. So if the athletes that will perform come August 17th to 22nd can be nurtured to prepare for 2024 Olympics, then you can see an improved performance. But if they perform on the 17th to 22nd and nobody makes a follow-up, no database is kept of those athletes, and then followed up by good training, then all that effort will go to waste. So I want to believe that the the team here will learn the lessons, document them, come up with what we call a technical report, so that each event can have a technical report that we can go back to and look at what went wrong in whatever discipline, so that they can work towards improving it, those aspects in the upcoming events. But that has been the problem of Kenyans.
Yeah.
We come out here, no technical report is written, and we just act as if we are beginning from square zero. That should not be the case.
Robin, thank you very much for sharing with us this morning. Sports editor Robin Tosking speaking to us from Japan.
Thank you.
You'll have a very busy weekend, and the Situation Room will be back on Monday. We hope to catch up with you on Monday for a lowdown of everything that has happened over the weekend.
Sure. Thank you very much.
Asante sana. Well, the good thing is at least we have an 800-meter semi-finalist. We have steeplechase. We still have 2 Kenyans getting into the final, and those 2 can still go and get us the gold and silver. The one that we need to actually even remember and recognize is Matthew Sawe, who went for the high jump. Even though he did not progress, he only managed to do 2.71 meters. The fact that we were there, like you said,
meaning he met the minimum qualification requirements.
Yep.
But even more significantly, how many other countries compete in the Olympics? Okay?
Yep.
All these countries have athletes who compete. And just think of the number of Kenyans who have gotten to the finals. Or those who have actually met the minimum to actually be able to qualify. It is an exemplary feat. It is not something to be taken for granted. Even if you went to the Olympics and came back with no medals.
The fact that you went there,
that as far as I'm
you are an
concerned,
Olympian.
is an excellent. It's excellent.
It's a good thing. It's a good thing. And we hope to build on this. Keep it right here. We'll have more conversations coming into the next hour. Yes, we can see all the people who are saying hello to us online. Dorcas is saying, Danida build Kise. And you can see it. You people are seeing everything. There are many things that you can feel as well. Good morning. It's 9 a.m.
Spice up your life.
Good morning. This is the Newswire. I'm Leah Ubaga. An 18-year-old first-year student at a Kitui-based university was last night rescued by police officers from 2 men who had taken her hostage and raped her in turns. The 2 suspects, Biron Orua and Samuel Mulama, were caught in the beastly act. DCI boss George Kinoti says the lady was taken to Kitui General Hospital in serious condition for tests and medical attention, while the 2 suspects also underwent medical examinations. Kinoti has cautioned young women to be wary of the company they keep. The 2 will be arraigned in court today to answer to charges of rape. The Orange Democratic Movement has threatened to withdraw the 153 million shillings offered to its partners after announcing its exit from the troubled National Super Alliance. In a Nairobi meeting, members of the party's top organ resolved to reconsider the decision to share political parties' funding with their coalition partners should they continue chest-thumping for pushing Raila Odinga's ODM into submission. It's believed that Raila pulled out of the coalition to engage new players without conditions from his current partners, who have insisted that it's time for him to back one of them for presidency.
The party is therefore dismayed by statements attributed to our former partners that the offer was somehow a vindication of their long-running grievance and that the same was made in a desperate attempt to keep them in the coalition. Nothing could be further from the truth. We still hold that NASA is the past. To further demonstrate this point, the National Executive Committee of ODM has today resolved to formally exit the NASA coalition.
Foreign currency worth more than 6 million shillings was recovered from High Court judges Said Chitembwe, his colleague Agri Mchelule, and an unnamed woman last week. A DCI investigator, Felix Karisa, who is investigating the 2 judges, has in an affidavit told the High Court that the Judges and Magistrates Association that is opposed to an investigation of the 2 has been insincere in their court application, which is intending at stopping the DCI from executing its functions. This comes as lawyers Dunstan Omari and Cliff Ombeta say said that the search at Chitembwe and Muchelule's chambers and questioning at the DCI was an attack on the independence of the judiciary.
Are judges going to decide their cases based on what the state wants, or are judges going to pass their judgments based on the evidence and facts that are there? Why could the judges be arrested and there was no evidence?
The moment you want to take those judicial officers through this kind of criminal process, there is a procedure. You must go through the Judicial Service Commission, you must then inform their bosses, and then you must start that process to prevent and to safeguard the dignity of that office.
And finally, the 3 Boda Boda operators arrested in connection with the Equity Bank Muthui branch heist will be held for 10 days pending investigations. The gunmen robbed the bank 800,000 shillings and another 270,000 shillings from customers. That's the Newswire. I'm Leah Ubaga.
.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Round about 9 o'clock, and we're seeing some heavy traffic on Mombasa Road. And it's also connecting from the old Mombasa Road. A lot of folks using the ICD route today, trying to get out. And we saw that last night. It caused a lot of drama. Langata Road has built up where there was no traffic before. As you get to the roundabout of the city mortuary, we're going to have an issue with that one now. It started late, but it's still heavy. Jogo Road is looking pretty good. Coming into the city from Westlands also doesn't look too bad. Thika Road also has eased up some. Ngara, however, at that roundabout, as you approach Kipande and then getting towards the Globe Cinema overpass, there we see some traffic coming from Muthui. Right there at Kiambu Road Junction, there's an issue. Apart from that, traffic looks pretty good this morning. Can we keep it this way? SpiceFM KE on Twitter through the mornings. Text 40127. We'll take a look in half an hour when traffic hour is over. See how things have changed.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latin, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room.
It is, the only and way we always like that you engage with us on social media, SpiceFM KE, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. And by calling us in on 0719-012-600 CT. Ndugu yangu.
Yes.
Medhali ya siku tafadhali.
You know, you almost dragged me into that conversation.
Which one?
I almost said, the Jangali is stronger. Then I realized, what? This is serious radio. So let me just read the proverb and stop trying to be funny. The jungle is stronger than the elephant.
The jungle is stronger than the elephant.
Yes.
Hear ye, hear ye. Okay. Hudson Sambo, good morning. Listening to us from South Africa. Doing a great job. Asante sana. And asante and karibu to The Situation Room each and every weekday morning. There's a story that has just aired on the news of something that happened in Kitui. And I've gone quickly to the DCI Kenya Twitter handle. And you know nowadays DCI releases a statement in forms of a thread. Just listen to this story because it's quite disturbing before we shift into the next conversation. An 18-year-old first-year student at a Kitui-based university was last night rescued by police officers from two men who had taken her hostage and raped her in turns. The two suspects, and they named them, I'm not going to do that, were caught in the beastly act as a seemingly intoxicated victim lay helpless on a bed at Diani Apartments in Kitui's Kwavonza market. Earlier, the three had been stopped at Monte Cristo bar in the town, where it's believed that the lady was stupefied before she was dragged to one of the suspect's room. Detectives have established that the first-year student had walked into the bar earlier in the day accompanied by her boyfriend and the two suspects. Her boyfriend is known to the suspects. The suspects mischievously ordered for rounds after rounds of alcohol, leaving the victim's boyfriend in a complete state of helplessness. Unable to comprehend what was going on, he staggered to his abode in his drunken stupor, leaving his girlfriend in the marauding jaws of the thugs. The two suspects then seized the opportunity and dragged the girl to the room where they humanly raped her in turns. Police got wind that the two men had been spotted dragging a young woman who could barely support herself to a room. The officers responded by storming the room, busted one of the suspects under the bed, trembling, while the victim lay helpless on the bed. The second suspect was arrested at the bar where he had gone to collect the victim's shoes and part of her clothing, which they had left behind after partly undressing her. The lady was taken to the Muthui General Hospital in serious condition, and the suspects are in custody, and the police are saying that they will be arraigned in court tomorrow to answer to rape charges. Hear that chronology of events. I mean, what is that? People who know one another, this is so-and-so and this is so-and-so's friend.
Were you trying to prove some sick point? Were you trying to instill an element of control or power over somebody else? Because that's essentially what this was. I don't think it was merely an act. It was clearly a message that was being sent because two of the individuals involved then had to be intoxicated in order for this act to happen. And the person who would have protected her, from what we are being told, was also intoxicated by way of these two gentlemen. So you needed to get him out of the way so that you could have your way with this girl. So there was a message clearly that was being sent there. And oftentimes you must also remember that rape is an act of hoping to show some kind of power or control. It's not just a sexual act, but it's a power move as well. So when you ask the chronology of events, intoxicate one who would essentially protect the other and make sure that to have a way with this woman, that you intoxicated her as well and then took turns in this beastly act. It's clear that there was an intent. It was not just a random act. And it's as sick as it is, it was masterminded. So yeah, arraigned in court, but then a little bit more than that, locked up and thrown the key.
Rape by its very nature is violence.
It is.
It's a violent crime, and in this particular case, these fellows were armed.
Yes.
The ammunition that they used was alcohol. And they disabled both this young lady and her boyfriend. Okay? So anytime one thinks of rape, one thinks of it as a sexual assault. No. That is the weapon that you use, sex. So when I say that it is akin to an armed, violent activity, it is. The weapon that is used in this case is sex.
Yeah.
But it is violence. And if you ask me, it should be treated as such.
It is bad. Because you can imagine the kind of trauma that a victim lives with for the rest.
You never get out of that. It's not something you can't erase it. You live with it
for the rest of your life.
Yes.
And it's really, really sad. Allow me to introduce an unpopular angle to this.
Please.
Though. Okay? According to this report and the way it's been told, and I've just thought about it, what other side could this story have?
Yes.
4 people walk into a bar.
Yes.
One of them is this young woman. The other 3 are men. One of the men is a boyfriend to the young woman.
Okay.
He starts drinking. Boyfriend leaves, staggers to his house, wherever he stays.
Yes.
Girl is left in the company of these 2. The fact that they went there together, first of all, shows is the level of they knew each other, they had some trust. And then it is reported by other people who alert the police that we have seen 2 guys dragging a girl who looks completely drunk to a certain
hotel
room.
Residence, yeah.
Okay. And then the police, rightfully so, act very fast and they come to the room. However, the report says that when they stormed the room, they found one of the two men in the room, and he was under the bed. The second of the men had left the room and had gone back to pick part of the clothes and shoes, yes, that she had left. Is it possible that, because in the absence of everything else here, we haven't been told whether actually they were caught in the act, is it possible that maybe rape did not happen? Is it possible that these guys took their friend, they left, they took their friend with them to where they were going?
The people who found, because from what you read, somebody walked upon them having their way with this girl.
Nope.
No? What did
Nope.
you read?
Somebody saw them leaving the bar and going to where they were found. And the person who saw them is the one who alerted the police and said, we have seen two guys dragging a drunken girl to this particular place. Police come and they storm the place and they find one of the guys had actually gone back to go and collect the items of clothing, and the other guy, police storming the room, finds them under the bed.
How did the items
of clothing disappear from her body?
You were in a bar. You've been drinking the whole afternoon. You could have left your jacket.
And shoes.
Yes.
Okay.
No, I'm sorry.
I'm introducing the unpopular angle here. I'm saying, what other angle could this story also have? Because there's incomplete information. They
were dragging. Now, if you introduce that angle, I wanted to focus on the rape because it's something that must be condemned at every given opportunity in the most vocal and in the harshest way possible.
Yep.
Was she intoxicated? Yes. Did they have sexual intercourse with her? Yes, they did.
No, we don't know.
We don't know. She was taken to hospital in critical condition.
Yep.
It had come about.
What brought about the critical condition?
Yes, what critical condition are we talking about?
She was taken to hospital. Okay? She was taken to Muthui General Hospital in serious condition, according to this story.
Right.
Mm-hmm. The serious condition now is as a result of drunkenness?
We don't know.
Well, okay. I think, in order for us to say this, then I think if they're going to do an exam and all of this, and then to say, yes, actually, she was raped, or rather that she had,
if they had
sexual intercourse, then you can go ahead and then, go on to other conclusions from there. You can. If that happened and she was intoxicated, then you say by all means.
Yep.
Absolutely. First of all, having sex with her when she was intoxicated meant that she was not able to make a decision. So look, that also then does fall into the category of rape. But if they're not giving us details, then I think there are very many assumptions that can be made from that.
Yeah. The unpopular angle I'm introducing is because many times you hear one side of a story, and because of the way the side of the story has come out, you in your mind you complete the story. All right? But sometimes, if you look, you actually find that there are details that you are feeling for yourself in a story, which are not necessarily being given in the story.
What you say is true, but remember, there is the alternate argument and discussion about this matter. That for the longest time, in cases of rape, women were blamed for being raped.
Of course.
Yes.
So a woman cries foul is the argument here. Why were you wearing a short dress?
And why were you outside tonight?
Why were you wearing trousers? Why are you drinking? I mean, and you're thinking, what on earth has this got to do with what is under discussion? So, yes, what you're saying appears to be unpopular, but if we were to go by the story as it is presented, it is a valid position to take because there are questions that still remain unanswered. Was she beaten? Was she injured?
Yeah, I think more information is necessary for us to be able to have an understanding.
But still, I am stuck on that rape issue.
Me
that
too.
one.
Rape is a no-no.
Yes.
Yeah,
that one I'm stuck on and I'm not budging. Because
yes.
if indeed...
If it is established that there was rape, there should absolutely be, no conversation about this.
There's no conversation we're having here.
Yes,
Yeah.
Let's establish, though. So, Ndu,
Mm-hmm.
we've had many conversations about, like earlier we were talking about mental health and what the government could do, and the many things that we ask ourselves. Yes, we have a government in place. Yes, it has invested resources. It has invested time in education. It has invested time in health, in infrastructure, in agriculture, in food security, in promoting Kenya as an investment destination, in securing markets for Kenya's produce, in promoting development in the country. But always, whenever we have these conversations, the rider is, but there's corruption. And in every new thing that comes in that looks and sounds very good, there's always a question of, there's always the rider of, but then corruption happened. Where's the fund, as we were discussing yesterday? A lot of money, noble ideas, support the vulnerable women, young people, and persons living with disability. Let them be able to get a leg up in terms of starting their own enterprises, and then corruption. Food security, look at thousands of acres in Tana River and Kilifi County, come up with a project, bring in the Israeli government, let them support. We're going to have a mega irrigation scheme in Kenya, blah, 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 blah. What happens? Corruption. Health. Universal health care, we come up with a project, universal health coverage. This is what's going to happen. We are going to add MES. Let's take the equipment to the counties. Good idea. Let's support the counties and the hospitals to have equipment. What happens in the end? Corruption. So what if there was no corruption? How would the story look like if you do not introduce that corruption sentence at the end of everything that we talk about in this country?
Well, I think you would be able to see a situation, and I think that oftentimes you must imagine a situation that works out so well that you would then want to strive to be in that situation. So what would corruption look like? First of all, I think there are very many, what would a world without corruption look like? And I think there are very many things that many situations that you can just imagine. That you can imagine that somebody would actually come to you and say something like, we are going to develop 10 schools per year in this region, at this cost. And you actually see that happening. That some of the statistics that we were given yesterday, where you have some odd hundreds of thousands of children out of school because they cannot afford it, that the government would be able to subsidize, that the government would be able to create a situation where all of its children went to school, that they would not be out of school because they couldn't afford it or because they did not have the opportunity to go. You would also be able to see a situation where your disabled would be able to be taken care of in school as well. All right? That's just one. You would see a situation whereby, like the picture we painted, Kenyatta Hospital, or your big hospitals in the big cities in the country would not be overladen, would not be overburdened, that you would be able to see that people where they reside and live and work would have access to healthcare, that somebody with symptoms would present to their local dispensary, for example, and find a doctor on call, would find a lab technician who would be able to take their specimen and find out what could be wrong with them, would find nurses who were satisfied doing their job, that you would not have to leave that dispensary and go to yet another facility to buy drugs, which you probably wouldn't be able to afford, that you would then be able to go and present a card and say, here I am, I need help, and the government has already taken care of that because they've prioritized that and nobody has stolen, that you don't have to be in Laikipia County and travel to Nairobi to be on dialysis, that healthcare was taken to your doorstep. These are some of the things that you would be able to imagine if corruption did not exist. That you had a pandemic that we have currently in this country, and you wouldn't have to worry. That you wouldn't have the things that you needed to be able to maintain the directed protocols. that people would not have to wash masks and wear them because they could not afford them, that people would not have to take social distancing and toss it out the window because they do not have a livelihood. If corruption did not exist, the government would then be able to take care of its people, even if it was a little bit of something every day, if they were asked not to come out and work. That you'll be able to protect your people, you'll be able to protect industry, you'll be able to protect development in the country. Imagine if corruption did not exist, or if you were able to keep it to a dull roar, at the very least. That people would walk into an office and be able to get services without somebody expecting an extra coin for them, because the government was supporting this. That you would see the police as your friend, for example. That you would see security forces as your friend, who are actually there to protect you as opposed to antagonizing you. I could go on for days. The different scenarios that you could paint. Just imagine. Allow the bubble to hover over your head for a minute and imagine a world in Kenya where these things did not exist. Whereby somebody comes and tells you, I will do this, and they actually do it. Whereby, yes, you pay most of your earnings in tax, but you switch on the light and there is power. Or you open the tap and water comes out. Clean water comes out that you can even drink. That you can put your children on, or that you don't have to use your vehicle, that you can get onto public transport to and fro, that you can live in Naivasha and work in Nairobi and go home every day and get home to be with your family. Can you imagine a world like that?
I can.
The more painful thing is that it doesn't exist, but that it is possible.
I can imagine. Patwak says, Kenya without corruption would catch up with developing or even developed nations. We have untapped potential as a country. We can make Kenya great for once. Yes. And I like the fact that you say Kenya without corruption, not Kenya without government corruption. Because that's my sticking point. It's corruption. When we say corruption, we point fingers. We say Kenya without government corruption. We say Kenya without. It's Kenya. If Kenya did not have corruption, if Kenya did not have all these vices that we talk about, then yes, we could move somewhere. But let's address it all wholesome and say, yes, there is corruption at highest levels of government, and that needs to be dealt with by us putting our foot down. We're going to elect people next year, people who have been in positions of leadership, either in government, in private sector, or in civil service. Okay? They'll be coming to us in about a year's time, and they'll be seeking our votes. And we will not be looking at what they have done while in office. We'll be looking at, huyu ni mtu wetu, huyu ni mtu wetu. We will be championing corruption if we just go ahead and not exercise our own ultimate power as a sovereign of this country by exercising Chapter 6. Because what we do is we expect, why can't EACC, hold these people accountable? Why is IEBC allowing these people to come as candidates? Yeah, but the ultimate decision is made by you at the ballot. Why are you voting for that person? That's number one. Corruption, government. Corruption amongst ourselves with what we do. You're driving on Mombasa Road or Uhuru Highway at 5 a.m., not many vehicles on the road, but there's a traffic light and it shows you, and you're like, what? Or even on a weekend, and the traffic light is red, but you're thinking, it's no one. Let me just go. Yeah, let me just cross. Those levels where we have allowed impunity to just permeate. Kenya without impunity would move. But with the impunity that we have, we are the ones who are shooting ourselves in the foot. We are holding ourselves back.
The Kenya you speak of, Ndu, actually existed. Yes. This state that we are currently in, we degenerated slowly but very surely. And we moved step by step by step. There are many people who blame the Ndegwa Commission for people who are civil servants being involved in business and arguing that that is what propelled us to the high levels of corruption that we see within the government. That story is not entirely true. Because to hear it said, you'd think that's all the Ndegwa Commission did. That's not all that it did. And if you think about the recommendation and how it was actually phrased, he wasn't saying, okay, now, on your marks, get set, go. Civil servants, please get involved in business as much as you possibly can. No. You know, that was the era when, for instance, government employment was preferred to the private sector. Yes. The vast majority of our human resource that we know of was in the public sector. And the reason was everything that we now associate the private sector with was available in the public sector. People want houses. You got a job, you got a house. Whether you're a teacher, whatever, you got a house. That's number one. Number two, you wanted a car, you required a pay slip, you'd get a car. What did you want? Schooling. My friend, if you couldn't afford it, there were bursaries. But school fees were a minuscule amount then. Now people say the salaries were low. No. The cost of living was low. So your shilling went very, very far. Okay? Civil servants drove cars. It was not considered unusual for a civil servant to drive a car. They drove cars. Because you could buy a car, as I said. Just like people go to African retail traders or some of these organizations to get to buy whatever it is you want to buy on installments. You just went to whichever car agency was there with your pay slip. And if you worked for the government, a check-off system was put in place and you had your car. Not complicated. So this great need for people to work in the private sector wasn't there. We cannot talk about such a situation without asking the fundamental question, what brought about the rot? And this is where now Eric's theory about us and our responsibility comes in. You know why? We decided everybody wanted to get rich.
Quick.
Yes. Not content with just what you have. No. People wanted to get rich. They didn't want to add value, create value, actually conduct business. No. The very source of livelihood that they had, they considered or they deemed it inadequate. So the funds which were at their beck and call by virtue of the responsibility they had over it, now became the target. But you can't look at that and not look at, so how is it then that all the law enforcement agencies that we had at the time, how come they didn't look into this? Because, you see, so long as your boss was involved in it, who were you to go around talking about it?
Yeah. Where are you reporting to?
Now, it brings us back to that leadership issue we keep talking about. The examples were being set left, right, and center. And people who stood against it were considered fools. There's a man from central Kenya called Bildad Kagia. He was one of the Kapenguria 6, by the way, just so that people understand. He wasn't just your average garden variety politician. He was a heavy-duty type politician.
Yeah.
A simple man. But his idea of government was more socialist inclined. That didn't go very well with the president of the time. He was most certainly clearly not socialist inclined. Jaramogi Oginga Odinga was that way inclined as well, as were many others. What am I trying to say? I am trying to say that the Kenyan idea and experiment with capitalism propelled us in a certain direction, and that direction is what has brought us here.
Our brand of capitalism.
That
because I think we even created our own brand of capitalism.
Oh, yes, we did.
Where it's me and nobody else. It's all about me. That whole thing that we have, we do Harambe, we support community, but it starts from, it's me supporting, not we community working together. No.
It starts with me.
It is me supporting the community, but you've got to recognize my input.
Sure. So now if you look at that vis-a-vis what happened in the United States during the time of Reagan, where he invented essentially what we know today as Reaganomics, where it was the entire country, and it was based highly on capitalism, the entire country working to make money. That's what it was. Is that in whatever situation you were, wherever you were planted, that what you're doing is that we are all working towards this thing.
Yep.
We're trying to make money. We're trying to be number one. We're trying to get out there and make sure that economically we are viable. And not just for this period, but that we're economically viable over a long period of time. And I think that's where the difference is here. Is that one person can be rich to then support the other. But in this case, it was a collective capitalism whereby everybody at any one time was able to stand on their feet. So you contributed for yourself, but you also contributed towards the general economy.
Yeah.
And I think maybe that's where we fail, is that it's for an individual to succeed, and then the rest of you can be damned.
We highlighted more the person. Let's take a break first and take a look at traffic. We want to hear from you as well. What is it that we can do to end this corruption story in each of our sentences, so that then we can say Kenya without corruption would look like this? We all know and have ideas of what Kenya would look like. But then, so how do we move to that point? It's 27 minutes to 10. Good morning.
(24/7) around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM.
Do your callers frequently ask you what stories made the news headlines? Introducing the Call Bulletin, courtesy of Skiza. You can now keep your callers informed and up to date with the latest news updates from KTN News, courtesy of Skiza. Dial *811 *795# to subscribe today. Set the tone with Skiza.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah!
You're listening to Spice FM. 24/7 around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM.
Losing a loved one is never easy. The lingering memories, the what-ifs, but in all the gloom, we find ways of celebrating them. And here at the Standard Tributes, we aim to give your loved ones that befitting send-off. Visit www.standardmedia.co.ke/tributes today and post your loved one's tribute. In addition, get access to funeral services from our trusted vendors. The Standard Tributes, keeping memories alive.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah!
You're listening to Spice FM.
Visiting parts of Nairobi at 15, highs of 20 and lows of 12 today. It's going to get quite chilly into the afternoon. Rain showers 13, highs of 16 and lows of 12 in Nyeri. It's cloudy at 17 in Nakuru, highs of 22 and lows of 13. We'll see lows of 13 in Eldoret, where it's raining as well at 15. Mostly cloudy conditions at 21 in Kisumu with highs of 29. 26 will be the high in Kakamega. It's mostly cloudy at 21. Raining at 24 in Mombasa, highs of 28 and lows of 22. 28 will also be the high in Malindi, where it's mostly cloudy. Partly sunny conditions at 22 in Kampala, highs of 26. And we'll see highs of 30, lows of 22 in a rainy Dar es Salaam this morning. 9 degrees and sunny conditions, highs of 19 and lows of 5 in Johannesburg. And it's hazy in Lagos at 24. It'll go to highs of 30. 32 will be the high in Kinshasa, where it's partly sunny at 22. Sunny conditions looking out into Beijing. I'll see highs of 26 and lows of 22. Sunny at 17 in Paris with highs of 24, and mostly cloudy conditions at 16 in London. Highs of 21 and lows of 14. And it's getting into early Friday morning in New York. 22 degrees at the moment. It'll go to highs of 28 and lows of 16.
Have you seen them? Am I like?
Yes, it's a very nice outfit, I must say. Good
Thank
job.
you. Asante sana.
The compliment is well received.
Good morning and thank you. Everyone in Wasingishu was asking me what channel is SpiceFM.
96.7. Tell them that, right?
Yes, now they know.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Pleasure to have
What
you.
a beautiful studio, my friend.
I've been to other radio stations, but I've never seen anything like this.
Thank you, and it's very nice to be in a modern studio. Absolutely brilliant.
And I have to say, it's a very cool ambiance here in your radio room. Just for our listeners, I think it is below zero in this room here. Very Swiss temperatures.
Okay, so I think traffic is looking much better now. It didn't go too crazy today. Hopefully we can keep it out there. We see a lot of outbound traffic on Waiaki Way, headed out west, but getting into Naivasha, out into Nakuru. We're also looking at good situations in Kisumu, so not much of an issue there today, at least not yet. We're likely to see heightened levels of traffic later on as Friday progresses. Or looking out east towards the coast, not much of an issue in Mombasa either. Okay, so it looks like a good day. In the middle of the city, we will see some traffic coming back into Nairobi, but as all roads meet there. But I think most of the worst has come to an end. Keep an eye on things. Help us out here through the day as well. SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text on 40127.
Spice and everything nice. All right.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM.
At 22 minutes to 10. Let's hear from you. 0719-012-600. We're talking about Kenya without corruption. Kenya without corruption would go very far. Kenya without corruption would look very different. Kenya without corruption would actually see that the 1.6 trillion shillings that we raise domestically as tax can take us very far. Kenya without corruption would actually see more than 1.6 trillion shillings being raised as tax by Kenyans. More and more Kenyans paying tax. More and more Kenyans willingly paying tax. More and more Kenyans wanting to participate in nation building by contributing to it. Because they can see where the money is going.
True. The thing is, how then do you divorce the human being from corruption? Because it isn't as though we are the only country in the world that has these problems. If we were to actually compare ourselves with other countries in the world, we would acknowledge that human nature is what it is in all human beings. However, laws exist for that very, very purpose, to ensure that people who divert from norms of society have accepted to be the guiding principle by which they'll conduct their lives. People who constantly abrogate it. However, you see, the unique problem that we have is that the very people who are supposed to uphold these laws are the ones who actually abrogate it. So, we're not even between a rock and a hard place. We're just at a hard place.
Just under the rock.
Yes. If you have a situation where the people you expect, the people who are put in place to ensure that these things happen the way they do, do not consistently or are not consistently seen to be doing this, then faith is eroded.
Yes.
Now, something happens when people start losing faith.
Yes.
Okay? They are then easily influenced by the alternatives that exist to what we may refer to as a straight and narrow. They feel, since this doesn't seem to be the most important of things, perhaps even this alternative. And the alternative is always there.
Yes.
But now, that becomes the preferred choice. Because again, as you put it correctly, you find that there is no deterrent to the choice that you're going to make.
Kimani Maina says corruption should equal treason. And yes, I agree. But you see, City, you started by saying there's a point where the rain started beating us.
Yes, it did.
And this is the point where those that had been entrusted with leadership, those
Yes.
that had been entrusted with taking us forward,
Yes.
decided that they want to grab for themselves.
Yes.
And then everybody else was now left with nothing. So the natural human tendency and inclination would be, the only thing that then is left is for me to try also and secure something for myself.
Yeah, if this is the way it's being secured, then this
Because
is the
it's all
path
going. If I don't grab for myself something, itaenda yote. So maybe over time, the society, we got into a point where you're also looking you can see it going. You want to grab something for yourself before it's all finished. But then we went too far. And for us to reverse, we must all accept that this is what we are doing and stop continuing to point fingers. That's the point I make. We point fingers at those people that we have entrusted, but we are the ones who are entrusting them. And if you look back at what determines how we select the people that we are entrusting, that's where corruption is. We look at somebody who comes to us and they have questionable wealth, but we do not want to question that wealth. We want to entrust them with our country.
Because we ourselves would like to have the wealth that they have. We actually admire them, though we don't admit so. Now, consider, for instance, this analogy. Certain members of our community who were truly respected, this group was headed by teachers. Now, do you know where the rain started beating teachers? With this very same thing. Teachers were never known to be highly paid, but that didn't matter. They represented, well-educated, and they lived by a certain... And let's put it this way, their contribution to society was looked upon with admiration, and it was something that people held in high esteem. But the moment this culture of wealth before everything else came into being, that's what happened. The profession slowly got eroded in terms of stature. And then the government did something which I find particularly unfortunate in this. Where previously people chose and wanted to become teachers, and they actually did what they're supposed to. Because teaching, by the way, I'm speaking as a former teacher, this is not something you get into lightheartedly. The demands for the job are more than just standing in front of students and telling them A, B, C, D. You really have to be interested in the welfare of the people who are in your charge. But then what happens? The government decides that if you apply for a course and you do not get it, the next option that you're given is a teacher training. Now, you've heard me say this before. So you suddenly have a whole group of really genuinely disgruntled people ending up in the profession. Mistake number one. Why do I call it a mistake? If you look at countries that do well with their human resource, better than even us, it's because teachers are highly regarded. It's a profession that is sought after. You don't just become a teacher because you want to. They look for people who have high aptitude, meaning you have to be a high achiever to even be able to become a teacher.
Yeah.
As we were saying, in fact, to become a teacher, what you need to do is not to do well. And then it becomes a job. And yet it is a little more than a job. It tends more towards being a vocation. Somebody who is entrusted with the lives of young people, that isn't a job. It's not an everyday job. They are not selling wares. They're helping mold and shape. Now, if this person themselves if they have issues, what do you think they're going to communicate to the church? What do you think they're going to communicate to these people or this group of individuals who we keep saying are the future of the country? You've already disabled the future by ensuring that the person in whose hands you have entrusted these young people is disabled. You cannot expect sterling results from somebody who is not really interested in their work. They just want to put in the bare minimum and go home.
So are you saying putting in that bare minimum or then looking for what else you can do if you're not in a desirable position then contributes to this corruption or this mismanagement?
I am saying it does.
That we've been seeing all along.
We all come from schools. We are all products of school setups. And where do you think we pick up all these interesting vibes? Students who are taught by teachers who love their job and their students, believe me, you can tell in the way they respond to their teachers. And you can also tell in the way they themselves have grown up to be. You know why? That teacher beyond teaching becomes a role model and an example. People may not think so, but they do. Children love their teachers. Children will talk to you and you say something, you know, teacher said this. You know, it's like, yeah, we hear you parent, we understand what you're saying, but you know, teacher said this. Then, my theory, of course, the police force. Can you imagine a situation where to be a police officer, we set a very high bar? Now, some will say, but corruption. No. When you set a high bar, you're well trained, yes, you're also well paid, we can demand more. And there'll be the impetus, there'll be the encouragement for somebody to want to do well. Do you think our police officers think that we hold them in high regard? Most people do not hold police officers in high regard. They don't. And they know it. So, and how do they know it? For the longest time, you didn't need to do very well to become a police officer or to be a regular foot soldier in the military service. No. In fact, the only other qualifications that required lower qualifications in our country was if you wanted to become a priest. That one, if you couldn't become a teacher, you couldn't become a policeman, you couldn't join the army, you could become a priest. That one, they just said, so long as you're interested, it's okay.
So I'm almost hearing you say, CT, that in a lot of these situations, in the country, or other countries that are riddled with these corruptions, that it's almost as though the structure is almost setting people up to be corrupt.
You've got it.
That regardless of what you do, you're going to enter into a situation whereby you kind of have no choice but to lean in that direction.
Well, these people, look, all the groups the cadres are mentioning and more, they want the same. Everybody wants the same thing as everybody. You want your children to go to school. You want to live in a good house. Preferably, you'd like to buy a car. Preferably, you'd like to own a home. Now, if demands on your job are that high, but with every passing day you realize, I'm never going to be able to do this. Talk of the police force, and yet somebody has given you authority and power. But you look and you're never going to buy a house. You're never going to. You look and it's never really going to happen. You can't see it happening. And then everybody who's above you, because after all, you're the one in charge of security, you're the one in charge of determining all the ills and seeing them and bringing them to book. How much do you see? How much do you think influences you? Do you think at some point this person looks and says, this is a waste of time?
I want to counter. I've been keeping quiet, City, because I'd like to really to counter. One, it sounds to me like you're saying, because we have said that if you sit KCSE and you score this grade, you, at this particular level, this one you will qualify to go to university, and then those that don't go to university, then we start saying we are recruiting police, we are recruiting military, and these are the people that we'll be looking for. Because of saying that, we have then downgraded police service. I'm saying absolutely not. The problem would be other things, and we'll discuss them. I'll say them. Education and performance in school is one thing. You have gone up to Form 4. It's only about 200,000 or less than 200,000 people who at any given year, in fact now with serious improvement, we're getting to 200,000 people that are qualifying to go to university. We have gone into pushing for other tertiary. That is the people who have scored less than the university entry point. But you're looking at recruiting 300,000 teachers in the country. You're looking at recruiting 50,000 police officers and another 50,000 soldiers. You're looking at recruiting people who have certain capabilities, and that capability is basically numeracy and literacy. And then you look into the next, which is what they go through. There's aptitude test that happens at recruitment points.
It does, huh?
Yes.
Okay.
The attitude that those then in power, which is those that most likely had now gotten that pass mark to go into university, and then they got into the jobs, and then they got into high levels of government, and therefore they are the ones who are sitting as senior principals and secretaries in ministries. That attitude that, the guys who didn't pass are the ones that we have then hired as police officers. That attitude is a problem. Because that attitude...
But it's a reality. I'm not saying something that is fictitious.
The reality that...
That's how people speak.
Yes.
Yeah, but I'm saying that, and that attitude is the problem, because that attitude is the one that makes these people think we are not going to facilitate the police officers that we have. We don't need to do much. I mean, if I don't have a house, why should a cop have a house? If I am working in a government ministry and I'm a senior director and I don't have 3 houses, why should I be working to ensure that that police officer, after all, we are housing the police officers in police quarters? That's the problem is the attitude. In saying let people who scored C+ and above, we don't say C+ to B, we say C+ and above. Even you who got an A can apply to become a cop or a soldier.
What I'm
In
actually
fact,
saying,
our senior military officers are cadets who come from the university. the commissioned officers.
You know, you're talking about recent occurrences. Huh?
Yes.
And I'm trying to tell you that it shouldn't be C. It should be B. That's what I'm trying to tell you. If we take this job to be that serious and the responsibility to be that serious, just like they tell you, if you want to apply for a course in medicine, you want to apply for a course in engineering, you want to apply for a course in actuarial sciences, you know, those high demands, I'm saying have similar demands. That's what I'm actually saying.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that's actually what I'm saying. Now, so that why to date doctors are respected, engineers are respected. Are their jobs more important than the police? No. Each person does their bit.
The attitude that the people have of thinking just because this person got an A and therefore became a doctor, so I shall respect them more. That is the problem.
But you've actually understood my point, and you're stating it very well, Eric.
My point is that it does not have to be a B.
No, Eric.
It is knowing the importance of the job.
Eric, do you know why the B is required?
We need to remove the B. We need to remove the attitude.
No, the B.
So that we stop, because there will be thousands. Do you know how many people get less than a B? So yes, the Bs have gone to police officers. Then the rest will go into other jobs, and we'll have that same attitude then permeating into other jobs.
Focused on the teachers and the policemen, and I am comparing them with the doctors and the engineers and other courses that require that high pass mark before you can get there, because I am looking at the respect that is attached to these things and how it is we view them. Because our perception, unfortunately, is our reality in most cases. If you knew that that police officer that you see there is better paid than you, if you saw that policeman and you knew that this person probably got this job because they did better than I did, your whole attitude, the attitude you speak of, would be very different. It would be completely different. There are some salient messages that are sent, and you are right on this when it comes to this grading system. But I am talking about what we have, not what we'd like to have. And what I would like to have is this same thing that you're calling attitude. How do you reverse it? What are our perceptions? What feeds our perception? What is it that gives us the ammunition to have the perceptions that we have? It is these things.
It is practice.
Which is what I'm saying.
Yes.
If we change the attitude, for example, and said that we are then going to make sure that our police officers are very well paid, they're highly paid, not because they got A's, but because they are police officers. Okay? You walk around and you find a police officer and he earns very well, he lives very well, you respect them. In those other countries, for example, the countries where these technical skills are highly sought after, a plumber earns a lot of money. I was telling you a story of a friend who has worked and lived in Finland. Says a doctor would rather take annual leave and take some extended leave to go and start constructing their own home because they cannot afford a plumber. They cannot afford a mason. Okay? They live within the same community, all of them. The respect that this person has is not that because I have a degree, I don't want to hire this person. It's because they know that this person earns the same as me, is a professional, lives in my same neighborhood, everything. They don't consider the fact that this guy is actually a plumber, does not have a university degree that I have.
I didn't mention a degree.
Or did not get the marks to go to university that
actually,
I did.
The world over, a certain basic, call it what you like, but a qualifying percentage, mark, position, it's always there. And in the countries that you speak of, at an early age, they figure out, they have a system that tells you this person's preference and leaning is in this direction. But what it means is they are good at it. There are people whose brains are configured to be good at certain things. And it's understanding it. And unfortunately, the grading system is just a pointer to what you may be good at. There are people who are good at it but are horrible in doing exams. They do very badly when it comes to sitting for exams. We do not have that perfect system that does these sort of things. But if you're talking about attitudes, I am looking at what shapes. You are right in that if they were paid well, but unfortunately, good pay is pegged to those very same things as well. Not necessarily a university degree, but what is perhaps considered to be an aptitude. You see, the whole system that we have that qualifies one to, that enables one to qualify for whatever it is they want to do. What do they look at? What have you studied? How well have you done?
And how did you perform
in what you've studied?
Okay.
Yes. They all look at it. It's supposed to be an indicator. It shouldn't be final, but it's an indicator. Yes. And I'm saying that yes, indeed, it can't be a university degree. No, a university degree cannot be the begin all and end all. No, it can't be. You don't even necessarily need a university degree to do certain things. That is the truth of the matter. And we have perhaps overemphasized academic learning. But beyond just that qualification, even right now, how many university degree holders do we have languishing at home and have been languishing for years?
I think there's a lot to be uncovered, and I think there's a lot to be changed. I think that it requires really those who are willing. We're looking at the change of attitudes. It's a willingness to see that the problem has become so deep, so large, that you have to start to chip away at it. And it starts to change when you have a different mindset.
Indeed. So let's conclude the show today. What's happening this weekend?
All right.
00 Direct.
So, Olivia, tomorrow on 00 Direct, a show that takes place over the weekend between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. And tomorrow is Pan-African Women's Day. And so she's lined up a group of expert women who are going to be talking about some of the issues that women face and looking at strides that have been made over the last few years. And I think it's going to be worth
tuning in
to listen to what this is. 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. So women from across the continent, Kenya, Nigeria, Egypt, and South Africa joining Olivia in the room tomorrow.
Fantastic. That's something to look out for.
What will they be discussing?
Well, tomorrow is Pan-African Women's Day.
Okay.
So looking at a lot of the issues around what women have been able to achieve, what women need.
And what needs to happen going forward. This conversation taking place tomorrow, 00 Direct. Now, until then, you have music, you have Sugar and Spice, you have Spice Drive, and then you have Adults in the Room later this evening. Have a fantastic weekend, folks. Join us again Monday in the Situation Room from 6 a.m. Good morning. It's now 10.